as long as I've never been on.
You can tell how much I watch.
YouTube.
Mark, you gotta come out of the woods every
I can't get it.
I know.
I've got YouTube.
No, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
I can afford the station, so I don't get any.
Oh, I just go to the Madison
YouTube, Mad TV
webpage
603.
and scroll through videos to see, and they're arranged by date,
On
and I
your
can just,
computer?
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all there.
And it'll
on-
say
as
live
well, they're all
streaming, and
recorded
you can
there.
click on the live streaming. You won't see anything, and you'll think it's all screwed up
Stream live.
until it actually
What
starts
happened
to.
to
Okay,
that?
so,
Okay.
all right, let's,
You're
what's that?
live.
Elevate
Huh?
Jake when
You're
he comes
live.
in, so we
Yeah.
can vote on the minutes, so you do it that way.
But-
Yeah, we'll take care of that
just so I
later,
know
yeah.
that we're going.
Right, okay. So let's call the meeting to order. I'm Drew Gentile. This is the Madison Zoning Board of Adjustment, July 17th, 2024. It's just about 6 o'clock in the evening. So let's see. Mark, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, so we actually have one case for a hearing tonight. We've got other business, and that is case 2323, which has been continued from originally, I think, January.
I'll read it out for
Yeah,
you.
you go ahead and read that.
Okay. Case 2323, variance is requested by Henry P. Moscone for property located at 23 Mount Washington Drive, map 111, lot 7, article 5, section 5.9A of the zoning ordinance to permit the metal roof over his trailer for protection. So, back in December, we received a letter to continue his case, which was granted in January, and it's continued in February, and then in the January minutes, there was a motion to continue case 2323 until June 19th, 2024 at 6 p.m. here. And then I received on June 3rd, 2024, another continuance, Mr. Moscone was not in the state and had to be in Florida to set the sale of his property. And the board continued that at the last, at the meeting, June 19th, 2024.
Okay,
There we go. Jeez, that was a mouthful.
okay, would you read the notice and the, or that's what you read?
That's what
That's
it
what you
did.
meant.
And it was,
Sorry,
I'll
you're
tell
right.
you, it was posted in December and mailed out, all the butters were notified, everything was taken care of December 27th, 2023.
Okay, so we're clear on the butters, et cetera, okay. Alrighty, in that case, then, let's see, who's on the board tonight? See, now with all the changes, I've lost track. Bill, you're a regular, right? And you're a regular, I'm a
Yep.
regular, and you are, all right, so we have a 5-member regular board. So we're clear, Mark and Jennifer are welcome to enjoy the proceedings. Do we have any conflict of interest?
No.
George, Sharon?
No.
No,
No.
No. Okay, and I don't, okay. No conflict of interest. Waiver request. I'm going to assume that, given the hand drawings, that we don't have, I mean, we have a copy of a certified, but that's not a certified. No. Okay, so do we?
Maybe part of a certified, but there's more to this, but we only have this piece of it.
So, anybody on the board want to speak to whether we're caught between the requirement of a formality and whether the precision of a formality actually helps us?
in my opinion, it will not, since he's only putting a roof on a building that's already there. He's not changing any footprints. I don't believe we need a plan any more than what we've got.
And
No,
It's not
it's not a
that
building,
simple.
it's a.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm sorry.
But it's also, he needs a variance for the location for where it currently is, because it's closer than the setbacks, it doesn't meet the setbacks. So the building
Well,
permit.
that's not what it says. Permit a metal roof over his trailer, that's all this is for.
Yeah, that's, well, But it's the dimensional request that is, the notice doesn't mention the dimensions, but the dimensions are part of the application.
How many, I went over there, so anybody else that has been over?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's, because I had a question in my own mind, as I said to Henry, that I wasn't sure the structure was up, which it is.
Yeah,
And, you know, it's a unique it's not a solid structure, it's just a, like Doug said, it's a canopy
Right.
over metal posts.
Yeah,
It's kind of an interesting dynamic, because we're not talking a garage or a complete building in this sense. And he's already, I mean, obviously, when the RV was put there, that is not an issue, correct? The RV sitting there.
and RV in and of itself is not,
We're just talking about the structure that encompasses the RV.
okay, so, yeah, so to go back to the origin of this particular variance request goes back to the denial of a building permit.
what is the map?
Yeah,
Maybe
there's
that's
a
not,
map.
there's a map, but it's not a,
Certified, you're right.
No,
right,
no.
But
certified.
it's not the hand-drawn one, I'm saying. I'm
No,
sorry.
right.
That's all I was telling you.
No, but what I was, okay, so the question I was trying to answer for George was that this starts with the denial of a building permit, which was denied on the basis of the fact that it doesn't meet the setback requirements. Right? That's part of our record here.
That's what- Roof structure settled closer than 25 feet from the south boundary line, closer than 75 feet from the center of Mount Washington Drive, in violation of Article 5, Section 5.9A of Madison zoning ordinance.
Well, then this is wrong.
The notice,
Yeah,
in that it doesn't include the dimensions.
I
Right.
only take what's on the application, I
Okay.
can't, like,
that's what I'm,
alter anything.
that's what I'm trying to say. It only says for the roof.
Yep.
Okay,
So the,
there's a number of issues here.
That is correct. It's only talking
Okay,
about
so,
the metal roof.
what's that?
It's only talking about the metal roof on this.
on the notification.
Right, so, first issue is that there's a rejected building permit based on the dimensional setbacks, right? There, right, so what we're trying to answer right now, in the short run, is can we deal with this without a certified plot plan, right? So right now, we're trying to address. Now, in the bigger picture, there are a number of other issues here. One is there's also a stone wall. It doesn't meet the dimensional requirements. There's a whole other building there. Do we have a records or
It's been there for 20-something years.
that Quonset hut thing's been there?
It's been there as long as I've been here.
Uh,
Well, since I bought the land, actually, back in,
Okay, and then there's an encroachment of the neighbor's garage onto your property. How long has that
that's
been?
been there forever. That was there when I bought the land.
The neighbor's garage was on there?
Oh, okay, at a minimum, now, we can act on the request for this particular thing, but it doesn't relieve the issues. Is that brick wall, is that a permanent wall?
Of course.
Yeah, so if that's a fixed structure, then we're gonna have to have a variance request for that. And then, if that barn or the Quonset hut has been there for over 20 years and the town has done nothing, we need to actually have a request for equitable waiver. I mean, the fact of the matter is, these things are now on the table. I mean,
There's a certified plot plan,
This is a certified plot plan.
right there.
Oh, is it in one of the other?
You got two,
Packages?
you got
Well,
two
okay,
things.
but that certified plot plan does not have this item on it. That's,
The other question I have, Mr. Chairman, is diagram, this drawing diagram,
Yeah.
has different dimensions than this plan,
Yeah, right,
with regards to the critical measurements.
right. Right, so they are different dimensions, right, so. Right, so just to focus for the moment, the question we're addressing here in terms of our procedure is whether we need a certified plot plan in order to actually address this. I'm gonna ask, Mark, what's your opinion on this thing?
On this one?
Yeah,
Oh, I was
because,
hoping-
yeah, well, you don't have to vote on this. You as planning, chairman of planning board, you have a viewpoint on this that might be useful for us.
Certified plot plans are always really handy. It's 8 feet from the property line,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty close.
But it's been there for a long time, and the town's not done anything about it.
Oh, well, wait a
No,
minute,
no,
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 we're
no.
talking about,
Oh, I'm confused about which structure you're talking about.
What's
No,
8
I'm,
feet?
I'm talking about the proposed structure.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's kind of strange because you can park your RV there.
You gotta understand that there is no level, flat land on any of that parcel. That was the only place I could actually put that. Everything else is sloped, and if you looked at the land, it's a one big hill. I mean, realistically, it's the only place that thing could go.
well, I don't know, I was there, was anybody else there? I mean,
I was there all.
I was there
Does
last
anybody
year
else-
when
A long
Sure,
time
well,
ago, yeah.
let me ask the question, does anybody else share the opinion that if someone's gonna park an RV there long-term, it's easy enough to level it? Bill?
How do you level it unless you raise the grade 3 feet, which I did with the Coleman blocks there.
Okay, in order for us to make that assessment, then we would need a contour diagram. Because
Now-
you're maintaining that the lot
Topography.
is not level enough. In having been there, my superficial viewpoint was that it's all clear, almost like 95% of the lot is clear, it's grass. And I've camped on things that are a lot less level than that.
Oh, we're not camping, are we?
Now, can I interject? I mean,
Yeah.
when we dealt with Henry in the previous situation, that RV was there,
Yes,
am I correct?
yes.
Yes,
And
Whatever
that-
now.
And had been there for how long?
a year, over a year now.
Okay, over a year. And, are we saying that he needs to move that thing now?
No, the question is not the RV, because
No.
in.
The RV in and of itself
In
is,
Madison, if you're gonna stay here for a short period of time, you are permitted to have manufactured housing, RVs, et cetera, and certain limitations. That's not a subject of the question here. Bob Boyd in his discussion did not cite him for the RV. So let's just presume the RV itself is just not an issue as far as, now if you're gonna live there year round, that might
I don't
raise
think
another
you
issue.
can, Eddie.
No, you can't live there year-round in an RV. But the point is that if it's going to be established as manufactured housing, then of course it does need to meet the setback dimensions. And that's what Bob's point was, now he's putting a roof over it, he's setting a spot for it. That fixed structure has to meet the setback dimensions. Okay, so that's where this comes from, so.
Okay, I guess I'm confused with the fact that it sounded like those two, where he's got the RV on that, I call them Lego blocks, so to speak, the concrete blocks, that was there and everything. When I came here tonight, I was thinking that all we had to deal with was the structure. That was a no, I don't know, I guess I don't read that into this.
And this structure has no walls, is that
It
correct?
has no walls.
No,
It's just posts and.
posts with a
It's
roof
just
over it.
sitting on the ground.
Yes, yeah.
It's not, there's no foundation, no footings, no nothing.
So see, this is a temporary building, it's not even
Basically
in,
sitting there.
yes, it's not in the ground, so it's
It
a
is no
temporary building.
foundation.
I don't think it's covered by any of these things, honestly.
Okay, that's another option.
Well, Bob Boyd obviously thought it was.
The town obviously thinks so because they've already raised my taxes. They're already taxing me on that as a building.
Yeah.
My taxes went up $400,
All right.
and they're calling that a building.
And you can drive that out of there.
Yeah.
Well, he has to hook it
Well,
up to
the roof,
something.
Right.
Okay, yeah, the
The
RV.
metal roof, they're calling a building, and they're taxing me on it.
And what does it have for a roof on it now?
It's just, there's like 8 legs and a metal roof. Nothing, open sides, open
But what's on the roof right now?
metal.
It's a
Oh,
metal.
so it's the metal roof that we're talking about?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
metal roof is already there?
So this
Yeah.
isn't an easy up shelter,
Yeah.
or
No, I
this
understand.
is something that
No, I
has
understand, but the
structure.
metal roof we're talking about here is already there.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
that's where I was
Can
going.
I bring a point of order?
Yeah.
Before we go on further, do we have to swear in Mr. Moscone?
Yeah, technically we should probably, we were
Just
just trying to
so we
answer,
stay
we
out of
were,
trouble.
well, from.
We were trying to answer the
Point of
waiver.
order, we were trying to answer the question as to whether or not we need a, what do you call it?
Waiver request for a certified plot plan.
Whether we need a certified plot plan. So, before we get into discussion of the issue itself, let's answer that question. Does anybody here think that a certified plot, no, certainly a certified plot plan would solve a lot of questions for us. We'll have to address the question of whether or not the structure is actually a structure. But we can't get into that until we actually,
Get past the waiver request.
yeah, so,
My concern is that there's
there are different dimensions.
different dimensions and numbers. One is 15 feet, one's got 18, one is 75 feet, one is 56, one is 40 feet, one is
Yeah,
56.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over the board, I don't know which one to use.
I gotta have to move it to match the.
Generally, anytime it's a question of setbacks, I feel this board has required a certified plot plan.
I've had that place certified twice already. I don't wanna pay to have it certified,
Doesn't show his property.
surveyed again. I've already had it surveyed twice, to the tune of over $7,000 each time. So you're telling me I gotta get it certified again, surveyed again?
I'm not telling you anything.
Well, I mean, that's what you just mentioned, that you're gonna request it to be surveyed again.
Well, I'm not a full member of this board tonight, so
Well,
I'm
I
just
don't-
stating my opinion.
Oh, okay, I mean, I don't see why I should pay $21,000 in surveys.
I agree.
Well, I don't,
Let's just get
It's
back
just
to the point at hand.
The point at hand is, the challenge is we have different sets of measurements. Right? Now,
The
I'm
survey
stuck on,
points are in.
just a second, Mr. Moscone. So, I mean, we're caught in a number of procedural issues here. Doug has raised a question, is this even a fixed structure? If we determine that it's not a fixed structure, this whole thing goes away. That is, now, on the other hand, there is a wall there. It is a fixed structure, which is not part of this request, which however is on the diagram which is submitted to us. And,
What do we consider this as a fixed structure? I mean, it's held down by,
go by the zoning
Pins.
board ordinance definitions.
yeah,
okay, yeah, do we have?
almost like a tent, but it's metal.
Yeah, exactly, that's basically. Did we get paper copies of the new ordinance?
Yep.
Okay, okay,
I handed
You
it
want-
out
you want it?
last month.
okay.
Oh, I
The
wasn't
the
here.
ordinance is in here.
Was it in the June?
Well, but we don't have, no, only the dimensional section 5 is in there, but we.
That's the
we do-
one that Kate just sent us.
Okay.
So the question was, is there a definition of
Structure,
a structure? I don't think so, but,
or permanent structure versus temporary.
According to the fixed structure is attached or placed so as to be immovable and not subject to change and it's stable.
what definition are you reading from where?
Fixed structure from,
From a dictionary, or what do you, that's not our zoning ordinance.
no. I don't know that, okay. You can-
No, well, no, but the reality is if it doesn't appear as a definition in our zoning ordinance, then it's reasonable for us to use a normal
Common.
definition from an acceptable dictionary.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, Okay, so I guess the question we're gonna have to address here for a moment is, we're kind of stuck momentarily on a point of procedure, which is we should be answering the question,
Do we require a certified?
do we require a certified plot plan? On the other hand, if we want to depart from that procedure, then I think I would like to entertain a motion that we consider whether or not this structure is even a fixed structure and requires.
I think that's a good,
Okay, so if the board is amenable to that, somebody so move and we'll second and vote on that.
I will move that this definition of this particular structure is not considered a fixed structure.
I would disagree.
Okay, that's a point of discussion. Do we have a second to the motion?
I second.
Okay,
I disagree because a temporary structure, I think, doesn't sit there for a year or a year and a half and is not necessarily pinned to the ground to keep it stable. It is not of such a weight where it's light enough where like 4 guys can go pick it up and just move it. This is a large structure that sits in the ground, or on the ground, I shouldn't say in the ground, on the ground,
So would
is
you,
pinned to the ground,
Then just to prevent it from wind.
so it prevents the wind from moving.
picking it
That's
up.
all.
Right.
It makes it so the structure
I mean,
can't
would-
be moved
Does
by
that-
the wind.
Does that mean a
Like a
tent,
rhino shelter.
does that mean a tent is a
You put
fixed
a
structure?
tent, don't you put pins in the
You put
ground?
pins in the ground for a tent.
You put pins in the ground for a tent, right?
Can Mr. Moscone point out,
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
our discussion, it's
discussion.
not, you will absolutely have your chance
I will,
to express
thank
your opinion, thank you.
Alright.
So the question then is, you gotta think about what these pins are, they're not little teeny,
No,
these are RV.
They're not tent stakes.
These are RV screws.
yeah,
What?
right. We,
I
Okay,
would
so
say the
we-
intention of the structure is to protect that RV on a consistent basis, year after year after year. He's not gonna take that structure and move it anywhere, where you might with an easy up type tent, even if it was a large one. This structure was erected in order to protect the top of that RV
But there
and
is
to
no,
stay there.
but there is no foundation.
It doesn't matter that there's no foundation.
no, but for example, let's take it out
Yeah.
of this context and just say, for example, on our farm, I've got 70 acres that are in current use, right? If I wanted to build a structure to house sheep or cows or whatever, I may not fix that structure to the ground.
Well-
It must be on skids or wheels. It must be a temporary structure that is movable and transportable across the structure. Mark, did you want to comment?
We've run in the past whether those tent structures, are those permanent?
No,
Or are
Like a
they?
rhino?
I'm sorry, when you say tent structure.
Like the garage tents?
Yeah,
those
the
kinds
ones
of
you
things?
buy,
Yeah, they're out on Route 16,
Right.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Is that, so if your neighbor set that hard up against your property line because it
It's a
doesn't have a
tent.
setback, would you think that was a structure?
According to them, it isn't, because we just.
Actually, this says structure, that which is erected or assembled using a combination of materials for occupancy or use, whether portable or affixed to the ground. This includes structures of permanent or temporary construction, plastic, fabric, and or canvas covered frame structures, structures for agricultural use, blocks or permanent foundations, and all sheds and storage facilities. Septic systems and driveway, pavement, fences, stone walls, flagpoles, and well pump housings are not considered structures for the purpose of this ordinance. That must be where that's where my brain was saying we added tents, and that's where we added tents, right there,
Mhm.
That it is a structure.
to the structure.
And
And thereby is required to
have a setback.
have a setback.
I,
5.9A.
I had tried to put in a couple of small temporary plastic greenhouse over the top of my garden, because I wanted to start my seeds early. And I went to Bob, and he said, nope, that's a structure, you have to get a permit for.
So you did it anyways?
What? No, no.
Okay.
I went, I worked around it,
Yeah,
fitting
yeah,
with the,
right.
fitting with the code.
Yeah.
But when I asked him, he said, where is it located? It has to be away from the.
From your property lines.
Your property lines.
Something most people wouldn't even ask. I mean, really, you know,
Yeah, who would go-
thinking of it more of a garden than a structure. Yeah.
Well, actually, under the current ordinance changes, so the warrant articles, it wouldn't be $8,500, so it wouldn't require a permit, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you know, a hoop house,
Yeah, it's a loop house.
yeah, a hoop house in the garden, but the issue we're trying to address here is if this is a structure that's subject to the setback requirements, then we need to ask the question, what do we need for measurements to determine that?
So if he's reading that those things are now considered structures based on the updated ordinances, then there really isn't a question, it's a structure.
It's a structure.
Right.
Because 59A says structures and buildings.
Right.
Okay. So then, where were we with that motion? Kate, what was that motion?
You were seconded.
Definition of structure not considered a fixed structure. Doug,
No, yeah,
what?
here, what did he say?
A motion.
Doug made the motion, the definition of structure is not considered a fixed structure, and then George seconded.
So, I think we've been overruled on that, but that's, okay.
Well, we have a,
that's
Well, we
fine.
haven't-
we have a
just-
motion on the table, we actually have
We
to,
still have to vote on it.
Vote.
we have to vote on it, right,
Right.
so. Okay, so, what, in our discussion, we've determined is that our current ordinance actually speaks to the definition of structure, as far as our town is concerned, okay? So that's, let's see, who's, the five, are we, is there something relevant there?
No.
No, okay. Okay, all in favor of this motion as stated?
So let me clarify, this motion is to state that this is not a structure?
Correct.
That's the
Okay.
motion, right, so an aye agrees that it's not a structure, and a nay agrees with our ordinance.
Wait a minute, so the motion is definition of a structure not considered a fixed structure, that's what you're voting on,
No.
correct? Now we're
That
changing it?
this,
The motion was that his structure is not a fixed structure.
You said definition, so what is it now? It's gonna be,
Well, the motion, as I said, relates specifically to Mr. Mosconi's structure, that based on the general definition of a structure,
so we gotta reword it, because it was, the word was definition of structure,
No, I don't
not
think so.
considered a fixed structure, that's what the motion was. So now if we're gonna change it, I've gotta change it. That's
Doug,
what's
you
Want me to
made
do
the-
it
That's
again?
quoted
Yeah.
words.
Then I will remake the motion. Then I move that Mr. Mosconi's structure is not considered a fixed structure.
Gotcha.
And George,
I second it.
there we go. All
right, so,
That worked.
so now we know what we're voting on. And an aye states that it's not a structure, and a nay states that it is a structure according to our ordinance, okay? Can we vote?
Sure.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, hold on, see your hands,
Two.
two. Those opposed?
Okay.
Okay, so it is
Dempster, we didn't say it out loud.
No, I
Dem-
know.
Sorry, it's three.
Dempster, Gentile,
And Schilling,
Schilling.
Drew, Sharon,
Bill,
And
and
Bill.
Bill are,
nays.
nays.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bill said yes.
Okay, so this is a structure, as we see the ordinance. Now, the next question is, we're back to the question of, what do we do with the measurements? There is an intermediate possibility that is we actually, instead of asking for a full plot plan, we simply ask him to get a builder who knows how to measure to give us a
I
third.
agree. I mean,
A third
This
party.
thing right here, I know it's not perfect, but it's, if we had somebody that had the ability, I'm sure these numbers are very close to what we're dealing with.
I don't know, because one says 40, the other says 56. So I don't know if it's 42 or if it's 54 or what it is. So on these.
This 56 is from, to the
Right.
middle of the road,
But on the other sheet,
yeah.
on the hand
The
drawing,
hand drawing,
he has 40 feet here on this one. it
sure
shows
that-
40 feet.
Are we sure they're measuring the same dimension?
It
Yeah,
says that it
just
is,
asking.
it's the corner, that corner closest to the road.
The other dimension is one has 15 and one has, looks to me like 18.
Yeah.
That's,
Let me,
So is there a
let me
possibility?
swear Mr. Moscone in and then he can comment.
Yeah.
for the-
Okay, you're right, Sharon.
Okay, so, okay, hold on a second. Get my. Okay, so we're still dealing with the waiver request. Okay, Mr. Moscone, do you read it exactly. Do you swear that the testimony that you give pertaining to this case will be truthful under penalty of perjury?
yes.
Okay. Did you wish to speak to that question?
This survey pins here, I've had it surveyed twice. All the survey pins are in place. You can see every one of them.
But that's a hand drawn, right?
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean,
Well,
what else would you need?
well, it's not the survey pins, it's the distance to
No, I know,
specifically.
but-
The issue is
but if you-
that structure.
But now you know where the pins are, you can pull a line across and measure it, it's very simple. It's like 8 or 9 feet on one side. I'm talking just a structure, just a metal roof. And like 14 feet on the backside. I know it's not 25 feet, absolutely it's not 25. But it is closer than it should be. But there was no other place to put the thing.
The concern I have is we're being asked to make a decision that's gonna stick with this property for perpetuity. And
The second page of
this is it may not seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal because we're asking to pass a variance on property. What we don't know in the future, that potentially even, it just says a structure. Mr. Moscone may move his carport. You still have a variance in place to put a 16 by 40 structure there. And that's my concern. You could potentially put a structure to put tractor, working on bulldozer, things like that, and it's different from what we're being asked to vote on.
Have you seen the property? Does it look like I'm working on bulldozers over there?
Mr. Moscone, I've looked at that property a dozen times.
Well, how's it look to you?
Mr. Moscone, and it's also not necessarily about what you might do. Should you ever sell the
Future.
property, that variance continues with the property, and the future owner might take it into their decision to.
So they're gonna build bulldozers on it?
I have no idea what they're gonna do.
I never
with it.
said that. I said you've got a variance to put a 16 by 40 structure
Right.
there that may be different from what you have. So we have to take into account to make sure we're doing it right. That's my,
Yeah, yeah,
That's
so
what-
you're, yes, because right now, we're not deliberating the merits of the case.
No.
We're debating whether we need, how, you know, the reality is, we have two different sets of measurements here. And just poll the board, could we accept measurements from, say, a building contractor who knows how to measure things, or do we need a licensed engineer? I mean, Mark, you're perhaps almost a third party on this. I mean, if we had someone, I mean, Mr. Moscone submitted two different sets of measurements.
So this structure exists.
This structure exists. And we are allowed to address the question of a variance on an existing structure. The plight of the land, of the owner, of course, does not come into play if we decide, based on the 5 criteria, not to grant, we're not obligated to grant a variance because it exists. We're obligated to make a decision based on the 5 criteria, right? But we are allowed to address an existing structure.
In terms of where it is from the center of the road, the variances.
Yes, but right now we're discussing the fact that we have two significantly different measurements, as one is 56
Right.
feet and one is 40 feet. It doesn't appear to me that we actually have, you know, consistent measurements here, so I don't know that I would require a surveyor
Yeah.
to measure it.
I would not necessarily want to put Mr. Moscone through the rigor of having to do an entirely new certified plot plan.
No, yeah.
I am in favor of having someone who is a licensed contractor or someone else who does this to go out and verify which of these distances, if any of them, because they could come up with a third one, what are those distances so that we know specifically what we're dealing with when it comes to a variance. Are we looking at granting a variance for 56 feet, 40 feet, or something, a third number different, somewhere in between those and not consistent with either one of these drawings? I would recommend, I don't know if you have any more of these larger plans, but using one of those then to put what those distances are from, and I'm presuming this 15 feet at the back part of this is the back point to the property line.
It is.
Do we know who
But
did?
this one says 16 feet, so you can see our dilemma, that we're looking to figure out. Because in the variance, we have the ability to stipulate no closer thans. So if I'm gonna stipulate no closer than 15 feet or 16 feet, if we stipulate the 16 feet and you're actually 15,
The
you're in
structure
violation.
is sitting this way. The lot line is at a skew.
I understand
It's at
that.
a skew.
I can see
So one
that.
corner is closer than the back.
Right.
The back corner is further
Right,
than the
but
front corner.
And, well, we're not disputing that. What we're disputing is that we have two different diagrams that show two entirely
different numbers.
I don't know where you're getting the 40, there's no 40s. There was-
Right here on what you
You're talking to
submitted.
the center.
Yeah, this
Well,
one
that's
says
not
The
what
piece that you submitted, that went with the building permit application.
But I didn't pull a building permit to put the metal structure up. So what are you talking about?
Who did
To
this?
erect a cover 16 by 40 over existing trailer for protection, no footings or foundations, attached to the ground by steel pins.
Who did-
Henry Moscone, property owner.
Who did this hand drawing? Did you do it?
It had to be me, yeah. I don't know.
And who did this formal one?
Can I see one of them?
Yeah,
It says,
come on up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
Leonard,
That's the
that's
one that
terrible.
has 56 feet, 15 feet and 8 feet. And this is the one that has 8 feet. They're both 8 feet from the property
In
line.
the front part of
That's
it, the
not
back
really-
part of it is
But that's not
15 or
the-
16.
Exactly, no.
Center of the
18.
center of the road.
Absolutely,
15,
that's
yeah,
where
I
I was
know,
going.
You're talking to the
16,
center of the
18,
road, the
Yes.
center of the road, yeah, well, that's different.
Well, that's 40 here
Well,
and
I
56
don't-
there.
I don't know.
And it's
It
18
says
here
40 feet
and it's
to the center
18
of the
here
dirt road.
and 15
To
there.
the center of the road.
You've
Well,
got
this is the
15
one you
there.
gotta go by, this, I don't know what that is.
Well, did you not fill this out, Mr. Moscone?
Well, obviously I did, but I mean, I'm not a surveyor, and I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah,
I did
right.
not do that. But right now, it's like, from that corner to the center, and who's to say where the center of that road is? You can't, nobody can show me where the center of that
Well,
road is.
you have the width of a road, you divide it into two and you take
Where's
that
the
as
width
the
of the road?
dimension.
Have you seen the road?
Yes,
Well,
I've
there
driven
It's a
on.
dirt road.
Yeah,
Well,
I
there
know.
are rebar
Anyway,
sets,
yeah.
there are rebar
Where's the
sets
edge of
here.
the road?
I
Okay.
know,
Where is the
this
edge?
yours.
Okay,
So
I-
that's,
Sharon, did you want to say
I was
something?
gonna say that's where either a licensed surveyor or a
Right.
construction person, a professional comes in. They are able to, and they stake their.
Surveyed twice already.
I understand that. I'm not suggesting that you have to go have it surveyed again. I am suggesting that we need something that is different than the two pieces of paper we have in front of us, which conflict with each other, that gives us a set of guidelines or a set of dimensions that we can concretely say, okay, they're never gonna be exact, we know that. These are the approximate, within, give or take 6 inches or so. These are the dimensions we're dealing with. These are the setbacks that exist, and here's what we have to do.
Okay,
Without that, I don't know, I don't feel that I can make a decision.
Let me poll the board. It's been stated that it is probably unreasonable to request the services of a professional surveyor, licensed surveyor, which would be expensive and probably take a long amount of time. If we can get a third-party licensed contractor to simply measure these distances, I just need to poll the board, would that be an acceptable alternative to a licensed surveyor so that we know what dimensions we're talking about?
As far as I'm concerned, if we get a third set of dimensions, what have we done? We haven't solved anything. I'm suggesting that this document we've got here, that looks like it was done not by a professional surveyor, but it's done by computer.
Which one are you talking about, this one here?
Yes, that one there.
That's
Yeah.
hand drawn.
That's
That's hand
That's
drawn.
on drawn on there.
You can see the pen marks.
I
Yeah.
But
spent my life drafting.
The 56 feet to center of the road and the 8 feet and the 15 feet are all hand drawn as well as the 120 to 100.
But going from these set numbers if we got exact numbers, they're gonna fall within some, what do we, I know I'd like to see the correct numbers, okay? But my comment along with Doug's, okay, where do we go from there?
Yeah.
Well, we agree that we accept the numbers from a professional certified individual who is taking those, and whatever they be, these are nice to have, but
Right.
those new numbers are the numbers that we operate from. If we can agree on that, if
Well-
it's a licensed professional person, I don't know what they, not a
What is
surveyor
Bob,
necessarily.
what is Bob Boyd? Is he's the one that goes out and measures this stuff, that comes up with the
Yes,
correct or
but
no?
we can't require.
Yeah,
can't.
that's right, but,
Yeah, we can't task him to do that.
I just asked,
yeah.
because he's the
I
one
mean,
that starts this thing.
that thought went through my head, but if I was Bob Boyd, I'd say, no,
Okay,
I'm not gonna make that call.
Now,
Not as,
go ahead.
I think I see the issue here. I think the two different dimensions are one to the center of the roadway and to the other one to the center of the right of way. Because if you look at this dimension here, it's to the center of the roadway, but look at the right of way. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So if,
I don't,
It says in both cases to
To
center
center
line
of the
of
road.
dirt road.
but
and to
I understand what
center
it says.
line of
I'm suggesting that one of them is to the center of the road and one is to the center of the right of way.
I don't know, I have to go by
don't
what's
know
on the
that.
paper. It
okay,
says center
just
of
a
the
second, Mr. Moscone, did you wanna comment?
Who is to say where the center of that road is?
A
Well,
surveyor,
that's,
Do you know?
a surveyor.
That's,
It's
yeah,
been surveyed
Then why
twice.
don't we have the measurement to the center of the road if it's been surveyed?
It's been surveyed twice.
But it didn't provide us this to the center of the road is what I'm saying.
That road is like a cow path. It's not a road, it's basically a cow path.
See
It's a
property
little
line
better
there,
than that.
property line
It's
there,
a
the center
class
of that would
five.
be,
I know, but look at, so you can tell me, where's the road? That's,
it's in between the property lines.
oh, just in between, but anywhere. It could be here, it could be there, it could be there, right? It doesn't have to be here, it could be over here, it could be over there.
no, I would presume that if this is a,
But we don't
well
know whether
then,
it's here, there, or elsewhere.
again, you're correct. If this is not a certified plot plan, then you're right. We don't know where those road lines are, and it could be.
I gave you 2 certified plot plans.
Well,
But
but
the
this
structure's not on it.
structure's not on it. Okay, let me just talk theoretically here for a moment.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Just real quick, of the plot plans, did the plot plans include the current lot that you're on?
Of course.
So you've got,
The entire,
other than this, you've got a certified plot plan of your 1 acre property on 23 Mount Washington
I
Drive.
had it for those guys down in Conway, I don't even know what's their name, I forget their names now. They charged me $7,000 to draw me a plot plan.
Well,
Okay.
then, was this before the structure was put up? Because if it's, the structure is existing, when you had the survey.
What I'm getting at is if Mr. Moscone already has a surveyed plot plan, can he have, we've already got that, can he have somebody that can go out and at least give us, based on that plan, the dimensions that we need to make a decision? That could be a contractor.
Right,
If I bring a
no,
contractor, how is he gonna know where the center of that road is?
that's his job.
That's his job.
How's
job
it his
to know
job?
that.
I mean, he just
So
automatically
you have
knows.
it from Amanuset Survey Company.
Amanuset, that's
Right.
correct.
This, I fear, does not show far enough down the.
Right.
But there may be more to this. They only copied this piece of it for, I don't even know what this is for, because the other thing is not on here, because the structure's not on here at all.
well, let me.
But it's their job to know where those roads are.
Okay,
I
let
paid
me
him to do that.
raise
This is where-
a possible procedural
Yeah, no,
process.
that's
One
not
is,
on here.
we,
right.
as a
This is a
preliminary
survey.
decision, decide to accept a waiver request. We make a determination as to whether or not we grant the variance. If we
May
grant the
23rd.
variance, we can make it
When did you
conditional
put this thing up?
that
I
a
think it was done after.
No, because.
professional third-party licensed contractor or surveyor provides us the dimensions. That's one possibility. If we deny the variance, then the whole thing becomes irrelevant. Then the placement of that item or the moving of the item has to be set up entirely differently. I mean, it's just a possibility. I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
So from, I guess what I'm hearing, from a procedural standpoint, we would accept a waiver with a condition on it.
Well, no, we don't accept the waiver with the condition, we accept
I
the
see what you're
waiver.
saying.
Then we proceed through the hearing, we proceed through the deliberation, and when we make our motion, we make a condition that, and the condition that we, well, the motion is to grant the waiver, or grant the variance. And we make a condition that we get exact dimensions for the record.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's a possibility.
This was there.
Now, if the motion is to deny the,
With the
The request.
the request, then it's irrelevant.
Deny the variance.
If we deny the variance,
Right, okay.
then these dimensions then become irrelevant, there's no reason for him to spend the money. I mean, that's a possibility, so dude, I don't know,
I'll back you on that, and we can just accept the fact that it is too close to per the ordinance, it's too close. We can work forward based on that information alone, and after the fact require specifics if need be.
Mark, you wanna comment on that?
We have done not to exceed measurements, right?
Right,
So we grant this not to exceed 56 feet, because where you need 75, and 8 where you need 25?
Yeah,
So 8 where you need 20, I'm not worried about the 56, because Henry's right about that road. It could be anywhere you want it.
It could be anywhere.
well, that
No
whole,
idea what
that whole
Somebody
development,
should put the center line
Yeah,
on
yeah,
both.
well, and the reality is that the more critical issue is how close it is to the property line.
I know-
Because
I-
we're thinking, I mean, the reality is, we do have to think in terms of the balance of the public interests, people in that area. We don't wanna set up a domino effect for everybody that says, oh, it doesn't make any difference, we'll put all of our buildings right on the property line. You know, what I mean, we can't create that kind of a thing. Unless we meet all 5 criteria, in which case he's entitled to the variance, you know what I mean? Because of the unique conditions of that property, all right? That's where we go with that. So, so anyway, so you were saying what we might do is just use on that property line not to exceed, or in this case, not to encroach any further than 8
If
feet
it's
from the.
approved.
Yeah, if it's approved, right.
Yeah, I think for the sake of this, we can go forward based on what information has been provided.
Right. Any other opinions on that?
no, I'm happy
Yeah,
with
we're not
that.
looking at inches, we're looking at
Oh.
tens of feet.
Yeah.
And you can tell.
It's somewhere
clearly.
between 40
Bill, you have
and
any
56.
heartburn on-
Yeah, the only question I have is then how does this cement wall figure into this? Because should we, let's play out a couple different circumstances.
Yeah.
Should we disapprove his request for the roofing structure, which is already up? He's then gonna have to take it down. But we've not addressed the fact that there's now also another structure that is encroaching on those lot lines and the.
That's
Would
not
you-
in the application.
Would you consider that just a retaining wall though?
That's all it is.
Yeah,
Same
it's
as
not-
landscaping?
Yeah, it's,
It's basically,
Yeah, it's a,
I don't know.
okay, so what is how does a retaining wall fit in?
But it's not part of
It's
this.
not in the application.
That's right, it's not part
Well,
of
that's my
No, it's
point,
not
is if
part of
it's
the
not part of
application.
this, and then
It's
we're
not.
gonna have to force Mr. Moscone to have to reapply for a different variance, because Bob Boy's gonna go out there and, you know, give him another letter that says, you have a wall, you have a structure too close to your
Only if
property
somebody
line.
complains about it,
Well, somebody must have complained about the roofing.
but not
Because
about
No,
that.
he,
no, Bob,
nobody complained,
No,
Bob
he
just
went-
seen it.
He went to try to get do the right thing.
It was already up.
no, I think what happened was,
I didn't think it was an issue. It's not a structure. They're up all over the place in Madison. You look around, everybody's got them. They're just sitting on the ground with a little pin.
No, we're talking
into the
about,
ground,
we're
but
talking about the wall now.
well, the wall is those Coleman blocks.
Yeah.
That's like a stone wall. That's not a,
Yeah,
it's not like it's poured concrete or
to me,
nothing.
it's the same as if you took the rocks off your.
They're just sitting, they're just
made a wall.
blocks sitting on top like
It's
Legos.
hardscaping.
Yeah.
It's
They're like big Legos.
Unless the ordinance says different, Mark read it earlier. and
is a fence, well, we should check that, let's, 'cause we
Fences
don't,
and walls.
is a fence, a wall, are those,
we do have a stone wall.
some on fences.
I mean,
Stone wall. Stone wall is a freestanding wall made of natural, non-manufactured stone stacked without any binding agents to hold stones in place with a maximum height allowance of 48 inches above the ground.
So that's a stone wall.
That's a
No.
dry stone wall.
It's not,
That's
they're
not a block.
man-made.
Yeah, man-made.
Right.
They're man-made blocks.
I
It's
understand,
not,
that's what I'm saying.
it's not a stone wall.
That's what I just said.
I thought you said it is a
No,
stone.
no, no, I said, no.
It's a,
That's a stone wall, that's not. So we don't have a definition of what he's got.
done. Other than if somebody were to say he created basically almost a foundation. He's putting up a foundation.
But that's not part of what we're doing.
No, it's not even on our,
but we can't ignore it, it's in the
Right,
application.
because we can't ignore it.
it's really banked, I mean, it's basically, I've seen it, it's a retaining wall, that just soil's banked up to it where it's been leveled
Right.
to put the RV in.
Right.
You know, I
Could
mean, I'd
easily
do
be-
the same at home if I was
It could
doing
easily be taken down.
Yeah, you could, yes, I mean.
Not easily,
you
they're
wouldn't-
big,
well,
heavy
You wouldn't even need a
blocks, right?
machine if you
Yeah.
really meant
Yeah, you
it.
can't do it by hand, you can't do it by hand.
So, they're,
Yeah, but
You're gonna need a machine.
they're heavy.
if you really meant it,
Of course, yeah.
depends how pissed off
Can we move forward with just the not to exceed?
Well, we can address the question of this structure that is in the application. The other things, we can refer back to Bob, to see if he has heartburn about the wall. I'm
There's
not
other
sure what to
issues,
do
too.
about the encroachment of the other thing. I mean, I can't believe that somebody sold property without at least offering a solution for that. But that's neither here nor there. And the other structure that exists within the, it meets the definition of a need for an equitable waiver because it's been discovered now through these proceedings that there's a Quonset hut inside the 25-foot. So you're gonna have to come back with a request for an equitable waiver for that. Okay, so, all right, can I entertain a motion to accept the request for a waiver?
I motion we accept the request for a waiver. The certified
No, the
plot
waiver
plan.
request, we're,
For the,
Certified
for the
plot plan.
certified plot plan.
for the, yeah, the waiver request for certified plot plan. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Those in favor of accepting the waiver request?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, Mr. Dempster's no. Other four are yes.
By,
Regional, is there regional impact to this? Anybody think there's regional impact? No, okay.
If your region is 12 feet.
Okay, so we've sworn in Mr. Moscone. Sorry for all the confusion here, however. You may, we've already discussed this, but if you wish to take a few minutes and explain what it is that you are requesting this waiver for, if you think there's any doubt in our minds, you have a moment.
But haven't we already accepted it?
The waiver request.
The variance is what,
what is
We've
the
accepted the-
variance for?
Yeah, the point is, he's asking a variance to put this structure up. Do you wish to say anything else, or do you think you've made your case?
It doesn't affect anything over there, nobody cares, I mean, it's not bothering my neighbors, it's not bothering anybody. It's just there to protect my trailer, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, then let's proceed to collect findings of fact here. Okay, first one is that the actual dimensions
May not be accurate.
are, what's the best way, are provided in, let's see, the dimensions are provided in, you know, with, two different, sets of numbers.
The structure already exists.
The structure exists.
Is it a structure?
Yes, we're gonna say that we, according to, what's the definition? What was there a definition, or was that
It's
in there?
very clear, actually.
Of a-
Yeah,
of
no,
a
you have it
structure.
right under there.
Yeah, just tell me what the definition is, what pages, according to,
Yeah, according,
The paragraph.
Page X of definitions.
obstruction, is that right there?
Yeah, I was gonna
the
try to get
definition of,
A structure.
a structure out of.
Well, it says at the bottom, right there.
page
Page 63 of the
2024 zoning ordinance.
2024 zoning ordinance. Thought we were supposed to sign these. Back in the olden days, we signed them so people could look back and say, huh, that's who made those
We can
mistakes.
blame this planning board member.
Okay, so according to the definition of structure, page 63 of the zoning ordinance 2024, the roof is a structure subject to the dimensional setback, subject to the,
Can I request
Setback.
that be moved up to above the one that says number 2, that the structure exists?
Mhm. It does constitute a structural element.
alrighty,
Yeah.
sure. Make that 3 and that 2, okay. To setback requirements. Okay, actually, we could start with, according to the definition of structure, that would be number 1. Then number 2 would be the structure exists. Number 3 is
The dimension.
the dimensional, the dimensions
Ambiguity.
are given ambiguously,
Inconsistently.
but are certainly
Not in accordance.
well, and certainly encroach, shall we say, generously.
I think that saying generously is a subjective term.
Okay,
I think we need,
encroach
in
on
findings
the
of fact, we need to be
25-foot setback.
objective.
Significantly.
It's still a.
Even then, it's an
Yeah,
opinion.
they encroach on the 25-foot,
Still an opinion, yeah.
Right, her significantly, but they do encroach on the required 25-foot setback.
line setback, and the 75-foot setback from the roads, from the road. Okay, so those are the 3 primary findings of fact we have here, okay. What else is critical? Well, actually, we should mention that there are other setback issues.
It's not, I mean, it is in keeping with the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say, the neighbor
Yeah.
doesn't care. Not that that is
I
the
couldn't
end all,
tell the difference between roads and driveways.
Right.
and
but
Right,
that area, nothing is.
it's-
defined.
Yeah.
I think it's the
Shame
word
on
I'd
the town
use,
of
it's
Madison.
very old.
Well,
Very informal.
Madison Shores is a,
Yeah.
It would be a textbook case
Private
of why we have
community?
subdivision
yeah,
regulations.
it's a
Seasonal.
seasonal, private community. And, I mean, when I drove through the first time, I said, oh my God.
I thought I was on someone's land and I
Yeah.
realized I was on the road.
Yeah, and it's not that we can just say, okay, it's that way, and
No,
we're trying to protect what we have, or,
Moving
You
forward.
also have to
So-
think back to all the other people in there who have come before this board and had to abide by the same
Yeah.
oh yeah,
regulations.
no.
You have
And
to
I
be
think
fair to
that's,
everybody.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, so are there
Even though this is called
other
a road,
findings
is
of
it a
fact that are
road?
particularly critical
accepted
for,
by the
and we can
town.
continue to add to the findings of fact?
Can I ask some questions?
No,
Yes, go ahead.
Specifically for Mr. Moscone, what are the dimensions of the RV trailer you have?
Not that big.
I don't know, it's like 40 feet long, I think,
So
30
width
here.
and,
I don't know, it's probably 8 by 40,
Yeah.
and the bump outs.
I don't think they can be, I don't think they can be any
12.6.
wider than eight
Yeah.
feet
Okay.
wide in order
So
to
it's
travel
about
down a
320
highway.
square feet.
Yeah.
12.6 is
Yeah, so,
Max height.
400 square feet is the maximum allowed for,
Right.
right.
25 feet divided by 2?
So the
So
question,
times
the question I have
540.
is, are there other things that are, other trailers, other large pieces of equipment or whatever on your property right now, being stored?
My son's trailer is on my property right now.
Okay, and that's down at the bottom by the Quonset hut,
Yes,
correct?
it's just,
Okay.
So then there's
And-
another place.
What's on the top of the hill?
Nothing, is there?
top of the hill,
Just your tractor or whatever.
my tractor, my boat, I don't know.
Okay. How big is your boat?
How big is my boat?
Your pontoon boat?
22 feet.
Is it on a trailer?
It is
What's the length of the trailer?
22 feet, I guess.
Another,
22
well,
foot.
the tongue is probably another 5 feet, 5, 6 feet,
I don't know.
And what's that?
27.
What I'm getting at is, like, I sat there and looked at this for a long time, and there's a pontoon boat up there. It's a good sized pontoon boat,
Yeah.
and it's flat.
I'm sorry.
My
it's-
point is,
It's
The area
flat.
that it's sitting
the
on is
area that
flat.
it's sitting on at the top of the hill is flat.
Yeah.
My question then is, and we can discuss this as a group, and that's why I was asking Mr. Moscone the questions when we go into our meeting, is that based on what I saw, there's another spot, flat spot on that property.
How would I get electricity to it? How would I do
I don't
anything?
know. The question is for us is not whether you get electricity to it or anything like that. The question is, can it fit into
The envelope.
another area within the boundaries of that property and meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance?
Of course.
So.
That's my question.
I get what you're getting at. As far as the finding of facts go, you could put in there that a level spot was manufactured to house the structure,
Mhm.
whereas it could have been built
Somewhere
out-
else.
It could have been built not within the setbacks.
Yeah, Mr.
If-
Moscone
I
did
don't
say he
wanna-
leveled it
Is
out.
that what you were
That's
kinda
where,
saying?
that's where I was going.
Okay.
That's why I asked the question.
Okay, so the fifth finding of fact would be the location was leveled to accommodate the trailer.
And again, how long is that trailer, and how long has that been sitting there?
It'll be 2 years.
2 years.
The end of this month.
Okay, for some reason I thought when,
Is it connected to a septic tank or is it
No.
water?
No, it's self-contained. It's got water, yeah, it has water.
But it's self,
But it's not hooked to a well, it
No.
has its own tank.
It's self-contained.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no septic system there
No.
for that trailer?
Self-contained.
Have we gone past the point of going to the center of the road? Are we just
Yeah.
now concerned with,
No, we're establishing findings of fact here. So
Okay.
the fifth finding of fact was the location was leveled to accommodate the trailer. As evidenced by the wall.
And the question I asked about the septic and that, is there a reason, specific reason why it has to be at that site? If there was a septic system that was hooked up to there, it'd have to be at that site.
But there isn't.
Well,
But there isn't.
yeah, yeah, but you could, if it's a low
You run
spot,
a long
a high
pipe.
spot, you can, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's but, I mean, there would be an argument for.
right.
Yeah. Okay, other findings of fact that are relevant to this. If not, we can consider whether or not we want to close the public hearing.
well, it's been there 2 years, and has any of the abutters come to
That's,
disagree?
that's not a finding of fact.
I thought it is.
You can list that there's no one here for or
Yeah.
against it.
I mean, I mean, so many of our other variances.
We can say the trailer's been there for approximately 2 years,
Mm,
okay?
Yeah,
has it not been moved in those 2 years? Or do you use it just park it back there?
I went to Florida for the winter, it was closed up for the winter.
But before
No, it
that,
hasn't moved, it has not moved. From the time I put it there, it's still where I put it.
Okay,
It
so
has
it's
not moved. It can move,
Yeah, no,
but it
that's-
has not moved.
Mr. Moscone, when was the car top installed?
Like, May or June of like last year,
So,
early last
The
year.
thing over it?
yeah,
The structure.
could that be that could be a finding of fact that the structure was installed in May and June of 2023?
What was over it prior to that? Because I remember when you came before the board for the selling the property, the RV was there with a top over it.
Well, the top, well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was like, I just only had the trailer 2 years, so the top couldn't be any older than that.
Yeah, no. No, well, I mean, there was mention of that trailer existing on that property
We had our-
while we had our discussion. But it didn't come into the discussion because our discussion at that
Was
point
about-
was discussing whether or not the solution to the setback issues of the barn was gonna be, no build easement or, a lot line adjustment or and so Mr. Moscone came up with a plan which was acceptable to him.
Right.
So we, that's all behind us now. So it was mentioned in passing, but it wasn't an issue because it wasn't substance of the discussion.
No, I'm just saying that to say that the roofing structure has only been there for a year is, this particular structure may have only been there for a year, but I do remember distinctly when I went out to visit the property for that variance request or
That the trailer was there.
that the trailer was there, it had a structure around it, and it had a roof over it.
Well, that's the only roof that's ever been there.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
that
that was
it's
about
more
a-
like 2 years
So
old.
maybe it's 2 years, I don't
What did
know
we-
exactly.
Kate, when was that variance of the whole
The-
issue?
Was 22.
Maybe.
Because I know we kept, yeah,
It couldn't have been 22 because I wasn't on the board.
Yeah, it was just
But
last
it-
year.
Yeah, it was just last year.
It
It
was
was last summer.
Yeah, well,
it started before that, because remember, we continued it a couple times because of going back and forth.
I wasn't.
Might have been the fall of
Last
22.
fall.
With another one.
Before he
Fall
went
of
to
22.
Florida. Because before he went to Florida, so it had, Scott bought it like last summer's fall, somewhere around there.
So it started in
Right,
the
so it
fall
was
of
before, the
22.
fall before that.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm not sure that's
Last year.
relevant to this case.
No.
Is there
It was
relevance
just,
here?
was to establish for
Yeah.
Mr.
When it
Moscone
was
approximately a
installed.
Yeah.
timeframe for being installed.
If I can add, I remember distinctly being here, and I think Bob was here, Bob Boyd, and he says, I am aware of the structure
Mhm,
being there, and he was talking about the carport.
mhm.
And I believe, because I wasn't on the board till 2023, I think is when I started.
In 23, but I don't remember
Yeah,
what
it was
month.
2023, April.
April.
And so it was during the summertime. When I first went out there and looked at it, there were still mosquitoes around. So when I was out
Okay,
walking.
so the point was, the cover was installed approximately,
But it's been there since the RV has been there.
Just say 1 to
Yes.
2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, approximately, maximum of 2 years. I don't know the length of time that's there's terribly critical to us at the moment, but it's worth having. Okay, so we have 7 findings of fact here. I'll just review them briefly. According to the definition of structure on page 63 of the 2024 version of the Madison zoning ordinance, the roof is a structure subject to setback requirements. 2, the structure already exists. 3, the dimensions which are provided are in there are 2 different sets of dimensions provided.
That's to the center of the road.
Yeah, well, there's also variance. One is the same and the other is different. So dimensions are given ambiguously is the way I said that, but are certainly encroaching on the 25-foot lot line setback requirement and the 75-foot setback requirement from the center of the road. There are other setback issues with an existing Quonset hut and a neighbor's garage. The location was leveled, I shouldn't say the location, for the trailer and roof was leveled to account for the trailer as evidenced by the wall. The trailer has been there for approximately 2 years. There's no record of a complaint from abutters.
Can we make a note on the neighbor's garage encroaching on his property?
I just said that, yeah.
Did you? Okay.
And
Okay, sorry.
then, and the cover was installed sometime in the last 2 years. Okay, so those are the findings of fact. Anything else you want to say to that? Okay. Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's all 5 in favor of closing the public hearing. So Mr. Moscone, you're welcome to stay and listen, but you cannot contribute from this point on. Okay, so now our objective is to assess the questions associated with the 5 criteria. I think for the purpose, you have to meet all 5 criteria, and I'm gonna suggest that we start with hardship,
Start in reverse order?
start in reverse order. Because hardship is the most difficult to establish, and if we establish there is hardship, then it's worth assessing the others. If we establish there's no hardship, there's no point in addressing the others. It's irrelevant. Okay, so, go ahead.
I was saying, isn't that backwards? If we establish there is hardship, then,
Yes, there is hardship, then
Then.
we will definitely have a chance. Okay, so now, for the purpose of understanding what establishes hardship, I went back through RSA 674-33, Roman numeral 1 is the paragraph, which addresses the question of hardship. So, I'm quoting, unnecessary hardship, I'm quoting now from the handbook for ZBAs, okay? For the record, it's page 28 of the handbook of the latest edition. Unnecessary hardship means that owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance and the specific application of that provision to this property. And the proposed use is a reasonable one. So that is, both conditions have to be met. And to the criteria, if that criteria is not established, unnecessary hardship exists if and only if, owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from others, the property cannot reasonably be used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. So those are the conditions according to the RSA. Now, we have also a specific set of criteria that have been handed down as a result of court cases, so I'll just read those. There's 3 conditions that come to us from Simplex versus Newington, which the court has given guidance as to understanding what it means, okay? To have hardship, okay? A zoning restriction is applied to their property interferes with their reasonable use of the property considering the unique setting of that property in its environment. And no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purpose of the zoning ordinance and the specific restriction of the property. That's a restatement of what I actually just read before. And the variance would not injure the public or private rights of others. Okay, so that's an additional thing. And then the 4th condition for this is from Gray Rocks Land Trust versus the town of Hebron. As in other cases, we emphasize that the uniqueness of the land, the property itself, not the plight of the owner, determines whether hardship exists. Okay, so that's particularly applicable in the situation where a structure already exists. That hardship does not exist if it's a financial difficulty for the owner, unless the other conditions, the uniqueness of the property, exists. So, shall we comment on that? Someone want to argue for or against hardship? Just a second, you're sitting, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I can discuss, but I
Fine.
can't
He can
vote,
discuss, he
right?
can't
You
vote.
can discuss.
Yes.
I'd make the argument that there is no hardship because the unique characteristics of the property, being the slope of it, were overcome by the
Leveling.
I don't even know what you call it, yeah, the leveling with the retaining wall were overcome. If it had been 10 more feet and 17 more feet inwards of his property, we wouldn't even be sitting here right now.
Go ahead.
When I'm considering unique characteristics of a piece of property, one of the things that comes into mind is the piece of property like too small? We've had several homeowners who the size of their lots were so small that to meet that building envelope and be inside those setbacks was impossible.
Right,
And so-
and they were grandfathered in.
Correct.
Because they were subdivided before the
For-
zoning, yeah.
right.
Exactly.
This particular piece of property being 1.1 acres, the size of it, the layout of it, regardless of what bit of slope there is, and I don't remember there being anything significant when I was out there. There may be slope, but I didn't see it as being significant, like a drop off or any of those kinds of things. Those are not unique enough, or they're not unique to this piece of property as to warrant that when you were originally establishing where you're gonna put this, you could put it anywhere. I would presume that you're gonna put it as close as you can, because you know, who wants to drive a 40-foot trailer over your pasture or your lot to get it into the middle of it. I would say the uniqueness of this was more, what's the word I'm looking for? That was easier for the homeowner.
Convenient.
Thank you, convenience was the word I'm looking for, so that there is no unique characteristic that would warrant hardship.
Right, now, we didn't mention it, but it is a lot that was subdivided prior to the ordinance, so even though it is only slightly over 1 acre, I suppose we could add that to the findings of fact, the size of the lot, because of, you know, the provisions of 1 point.
I don't know.
1.04?
Yeah, anyway.
1.07.
Yeah, I mean, the lot is a legal lot, there's no, and so therefore, there might be in certain circumstances an argument that the building envelope has to be encroached upon. However, the trailer we're talking about is, as we said, 8 feet by 40 feet in a 1 acre lot. There's nothing unique about that particular property that would require the placement of the trailer just on the overall dimensions, given the fact that it's, as you said, and several of us have observed, there is a slight slope to the land, but it's not, there's no boulder in the middle, there's no outcropping of rocks, there's no stream cutting across the section. In fact, it's 99% cleared. It's grassy, it may not be completely level, but as evidenced by the fact that part of it was leveled for the trailer, it's certainly not an impossible situation. Bill, did you want to?
Yeah, I think when I was looking at this, and having time to sit and look back, and that's why I asked the questions I did, you know, regarding the size of the trailer with the pontoon boat. And I have a 20-foot boat, and it's not easy sometimes to back up, but that was up there at the top of the hill, and to me, it looked level, which told me that they're probably, without looking at, but just seeing from what I could see, that there was space up there to put a trailer of similar size up in that area where that pontoon boat was.
But would that encroach on?
Well, I don't know that.
Because we put in that no build zone.
When you say it's of similar size,
Well, that no
of
build
similar
zone is
size of
fairly
the
far
boat
down
trailer
near the
or of
road
the similar
because
size
that's where
of
the barn is.
What I was saying is
The RV trailer.
the RV trailer,
It's much bigger than the boat trailer.
it's 8 by 40. The RV is 20 by 23. It's still a big,
RV is 20 by 20.
No, the RV is
No, the
10 by 40.
it's
Yeah,
8 by 40,
8 by, that's the RV. The boat trailer is,
20 by 22.
so you're putting a 40-foot a trailer onto a
Understood.
spot that's got a 22-foot trailer.
I'm saying if you can get, what got me is if you can back up and put a pontoon boat trailer up on that area, which looked flat to me, and it looked large enough, just, I didn't go up there and measure it, just looking at it. And then comparing and looking over at where the carport was, there appeared to me to be space up there. So there were potential options and alternate places other than where the present site is.
So
you
what,
think-
go ahead.
So you think the carport would fit on that place where the pontoon boat is now?
It is my opinion, yes.
Okay, that's where I was getting, that's all.
But is that what we're here for?
Well, we're not required to redesign the
No,
property.
no,
No,
No.
but you asked if there was a hardship, and that, I was saying there's not a hardship. That's what.
Well, there's a hardship if he had to move it up there.
Well,
He's got a,
Not necessarily.
no,
okay.
and if it's not a structure, it should be pretty easy to move, huh?
No, just, I mean, RVs
You want
are,
to move it.
they have wheels.
Mr.
You
Moscone
hook it up
is
to a
gonna
truck
put
and
the
it's
portion.
designed to tow it down the road
Yeah,
and
no, it's
back
not
it
the- it's
into,
not the
into
RV.
trailer
Yeah,
spots.
that's what he's put in.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is the arguments are leaning towards the fact that the property itself does not have unique characteristics that require the RV to be parked within the 25-foot setback requirement. It's unfortunate in this case that a structure already exists, but we're required to assess, for the sake of justice, whether or not the property, so if, for example, like, so there was a outcropping of rocks, there was a drop off, there was a stream through there, there was a severe incline that really made it extremely difficult. Those kinds of things on the property would be arguments
For unique characteristics.
for you, as a unique characteristic of the property, it would require a variance for reasonable use. I don't think anyone doubts the reasonable use of this property for the parking of an RV, which is allowed in the rural residential district. Right? So, what we're trying to determine is whether the property itself has any further comments on that?
I just don't feel it.
Say it.
I don't feel it needs to be changed. I think in the situation they're in this environment over here, with a neighbor whose garage is in part of his, I mean, this has all been completed. We're talking about, I mean, I don't see where it applies to, we're just talking about the structure. And now we're talking about having to move this to here so it will comply.
Well, I know,
I think
that is a
that's
difficult
very-
issue, but one of
Can
our.
I interrupt, Mr. Chairman? That's not what I was saying. What I was saying is, one of the listed parts in the application was hardship because there was no other place to put the trailer. And when I looked at the site and after asking the questions I did, it appeared to me there were other locations that trailer could possibly be put, which takes away the hardship argument, in my opinion.
To
That's where I was
begin-
going with that, George.
Oh,
was telling the
I
board.
see what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I mean,
I'm
that's
sorry,
not
Mr.
what's
Chairman.
been done, that's all I'm saying.
No, I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying, but one of our obligations as a board in balancing the rights of the property owners with the town's desire to bring things into conformity is that unless there is a clear argument based on all 5 criteria, that we should be moving things toward conformity with the zoning ordinance. But we are authorized and actually obligated to give the benefit of the doubt to the property owners where they meet the 5 criteria. Because, we're, what is the term they like to use? A constitutional safety valve to prevent a one-size-fits-all policy from riding over the rights of property owners, right?
Otherwise, you'd have a giant HOA, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
Right. But we're also obligated to ensure that we don't just do favors to people because, well, it's always been that way. Well, we are obligated to move things toward conformity.
Right.
So, any other comments? Is anybody willing to make a motion, or do you want to continue the discussion? Well, actually, we need to decide whether this, we don't wanna vote on this, but I wanna, this individually. But if we think that this is moving towards not being a hardship, we have to meet all 5 criteria. So, let's just pull the board. What are you thinking, Bill? Is this a hardship or not?
No, it's not a hardship.
What do you think, Doug?
Hard to say, to tell you the truth.
Okay, Sharon, what do you think?
Based on the definitions for hardship and the tests, I would say it is not. It is the one thing that is not, or is rather, is something that was addressed in the Crossley versus Pelham, which is establishing nothing more than a need personal to the landowner. The hardship be unique to the applicant's parcel. So there is no uniqueness to this parcel other than the somewhat slope of it. And this is something that fits the personal need of the landowner as opposed to the ordinances. So I'd say that there is no hardship.
I disagree. I think it's a hardship in the sense of where Henry put it 2 years ago, and it's a piece of property that he chose to put it on. And I don't think, when I read this, I go back to the fact that we're talking about just the roof structure, and now we're talking about having him, if I'm correct, consider having to move it up on top of a hill.
I've not said that. He's free to
Okay.
leave the RV exactly where it is.
The RV,
Okay.
The RV.
And you're
But
talking
all the
about
other
the
stuff,
roof
the roof
structure.
Yeah, roof
structure.
structure.
Yeah, you can't,
But
based on
one
unique.
could reasonably assume that if you move the roof, you're
It's
gonna move
probably
the
gonna
RV too.
Exactly.
Right, but that's his
And
choice.
that's-
He doesn't
Yeah.
have to. He could just choose not to put the roof structure up and
He's already done it.
then he would have to.
Well,
remove it.
yeah, that's true, but in our deliberations, we approach this as though it hasn't been done. And that's why the court cases say, well, the plight of the landowner doesn't come into the question of whether or not it's hardship. The question is whether the land itself, the property itself warrants, relief from the ordinance because the uniqueness of the property basically requires that. So it is a difficult thing. What I'm hearing is the board's a little bit split on this. Does the board want to continue and look at all the other criteria rather than,
if we
Mhm.
deny this variance,
yeah?
what do we expect Mr. Moscone to do? Do we have an expectation of what he has to do?
We don't expect any.
Right, we don't. I mean, the reality is,
Yeah.
it's just like in the other situation, he has a number of options. He can move the RV on the structure, he can take the structure down.
He can leave it and incur fines.
He can leave and incur fines, right? That's not, what he does with the situation is not,
So all
Not our
we're concerned with is the letter of the law, not common sense.
That's not true.
It is to me.
Why don't you elaborate on that? Why,
I think if I would add a few more things.
yeah,
Where it's sitting, there's vegetation between the road and his structure, okay? It's not something that's just staring at you like oh my God, look at this metal structure now, okay? That never occurred to me at all. He put it on a piece of land or put it in a part of his property that really saved, to me, it saved the rest of the property. When he goes to sell that property, somebody can put a house on the top of that hill where it should be, but not I think putting a trailer up on the top of the hill is crazy, personally. I think where he's got it tucked away there, it lends itself to where,
Sort of hidden.
yeah,
And I would rebut that by saying, when I built my house, I had to follow the ordinances and the procedures and go through the proper channels and ask permission, not forgiveness.
But when you
And
build
I had
your
to build
house-
with, or a shed, or anything. you have a building envelope where you don't have to jump through the hoops.
And I totally agree with, this thing doesn't fall into the right variance. No doubt about it, just, that's my feeling on this.
It doesn't fall what?
Within the variance, you know, the 75 and 25 feet. And it doesn't, I mean, the whole thing doesn't work, from the neighbor to Henry. And, you know, we've done a number of things up in this Madison Shores, and nothing complies. in
No,
the
but there
area.
was hardship for this other piece because of the
Oh.
nature of the size of the lot and the
Right,
position
and
of
Henry
existing.
gave up land on that one,
Regardless.
yeah. But-
This one was done 2 years ago, okay? And putting the RV where it sits is not an issue. That's never been an issue.
Right.
He's more than welcome to put it, he could put it right over, you know, on the other side if he wanted to as well.
Right.
Once you start to establish other structures by creating a wall and an overhang to it, you
Right.
start to have to get into the position where you need to comply with ordinances, and the fact is, they didn't. It doesn't.
I hear what you're saying, you know, and I know the word structure has been put out there, but to me, it doesn't, it's a structure that could easily be, or somewhat easily, taken down. And it protects his,
But so could a shed, and it's still a structure. A shed could easily be taken down, but it's still a structure.
all right, I
So
mean, that's,
according to, and if we have an issue with the ordinance's definition of a structure, then perhaps we need to go back to
Right.
the planning board, and she's like, don't,
oh,
but change the definition and get people to vote on a new definition for structure. But at the moment, with the existing ordinances, it's a structure. By that definition, it's a structure. And as such, it must comply with the ordinances and the setback requirements. And the fact that it didn't and doesn't and hasn't is somewhat irrelevant to the board. The board's requirement, our committee's requirement is, should it, must it? And that's it, not how does it.
I'm arguing on the point that it is where it is. And
It's
it-
weird,
and
but it's
To me,
not
it doesn't,
unique.
it's how it affects the rest of that community. I know it doesn't fill, but we've had worse variances in terms of between 56 and 40, you know, garage or whatever structure.
Based on numbers alone, you're right. But based on numbers alone, those numbers in those other pieces of property were always tested by the same 5 criteria, of which hardship was always one of them. And there was a unique characteristic to that piece of property that lent itself that the homeowner could not comply with the ordinance. In this instance, the owner could have complied with, and could still, because we're only talking about the roof structure. So those homeowners could not comply, this landowner, because there's no homeowner, but this landowner can.
Okay,
And if
no,
we're
I see
moving-
what you're saying, I just,
Yeah.
Can I
I
get-
guess.
Well, you don't have to agree
I
with
did,
it.
yeah.
Yes, Bill, do you want to?
Yeah, you made some good points, George, and good point, Sharon. Where I'm looking at this is, and maybe I'm being a stickler here, is that we're being asked to grant a variance to a 16 by 40 structure. We're looking at it as being a structure that it currently exists. This property gets sold, that structure that Mr. Moscone has on that property goes, it still says that that property has a variance for perpetuity for a 16 by 40 structure. The new
It now becomes a
homeowner,
barn.
what's that?
It now becomes a
It
barn.
could become a barn. It could
Or a
be-
house.
How about decide it's not a structure?
Excuse me,
Huh?
I thought we already decided it was a
one
structure.
second.
So-
Bill, finish your statement, then we'll come to.
Yeah, so that was my point. I'm looking at it from being a current 16 by 40 carport to what we have, or given up to about 30 seconds ago, 16 by 40 structure, that a structure is anything. And my point is, if you grant a variance for a 16 by 40 structure, anything that fits a definition of structure could potentially go there.
But
That's-
this
that's-
structure is a metal tent.
Currently,
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 Currently.
exactly, and that's why it's not a I don't know where Doug's going with this, but
Well,
it's not
no,
a
the
permanent
variance
structure.
runs with the land. Once the
Yep,
variance
right.
is granted,
Granted.
it's in perpetuity. It doesn't matter, as long as the dimensions don't change, anything can be put in that place
And
within
they-
1 year.
They have a
Okay.
block of space, 16 by 40, that then anything that qualifies as a structure can go in there.
Okay, Mark, did you,
I don't think there's a way, but if you call it a temporary structure, and then they couldn't come back and get a building permit.
Define
to-
temporary structure by our ordinance.
How long does it have to be in place or not in place to qualify as temporary?
There is no way
Right.
to do that.
no, there's no way to do that, but,
Right.
but part of the issue is, you know, it's just like an RV, it's on wheels.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
this
I mean,
isn't.
This isn't, but read the definition of structure again, you were playing.
Structure is that which is erected or assembled using a combination of materials for occupancy or use, whether portable or fixed to the ground. This includes the structures of permanent or temporary construction, plastic, fabric, and or canvas,
Fixed to the
Yeah.
ground.
covered
So,
frames.
permanent or temporary is irrelevant.
Right.
So
Still
I'm
a
sure
structure.
we added that
So a tent is a
to
structure.
make it so, back when the vine was here, to make it so those tents that were popping up all over the place.
The gorilla shelters.
Oh,
or
the
whatever
rhino
they're called.
shelter
The
thing?
Rhino shelters, not gorilla
Yeah.
shelters.
I thought you meant like Hutopia.
No,
those
yeah.
guys.
Yurts.
Like-
No,
Yeah,
I-
yeah,
and
So
Yeah.
it's, so are
Or-
those
So that-
structures,
Yeah.
that,
the
yeah,
tents?
yeah, that definition does not distinguish between temporary or permanent.
So a rhino shelter is a structure,
Yeah,
Yep.
interesting.
Okay, so we visited that before, I don't think there's any way around the question of structure.
It's a structure.
Okay, so, I'm gonna suggest that we, take a look at the, other criteria, or, since there's
Yeah,
not
due
clear, I don't
diligence.
know that there's a clear feeling yet, but let's move on. We're not gonna vote on the criteria individually, let's just keep going back in, reverse order here. The values of surrounding property should not be diminished. Is there anyone who feels that the structure diminishes the property values in Madison Shores?
No,
No.
No.
no, I guess I shouldn't. Well, it wasn't a vote, I can speak. No.
You can comment.
Okay, so the third criteria is substantial justice is done. The criteria for substantial justice is loss to the individual is not outweighed by gain to the general public. Also, the court will examine whether proposed development is consistent with the area's present use. So the question is granting this substantial justice, the point is that, so we have to argue here, what is the gain to the public? And as I suggested before, the gain to the public is that we are obligated, where the 5 criteria are not clearly met, to continue to move the community toward compliance as opposed to away from compliance. Also, we are enjoined repeatedly by the courts not to simply grant a favor. We are obligated to operate ethically under the statements of the law. So we are obligated to make a just decision here. However it falls out, the point is that, so how do you feel? Is substantial justice here done favoring the ordinance and the interest of the public, or is substantial justice granted here not on the basis of simply favor because it exists, but, I mean, here again, other considerations, the nature of the property, nature of the neighborhood, public health and safety don't appear to be an issue in this particular case, but comments?
If we're discussing substantial justice being what is the gain to the public, there really isn't any. Because there's no, it's not, we're not trying to erect a telecommunications tower, they're not trying to put up a garage that's gonna work for, where cars be a public, business kind of thing. So there really is no gain
Well-
to the public.
Well, I counter that in simply saying that any move towards
Conformity.
compliance and order is a benefit to the public.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying granting this variance is not a gain to the public. To grant him the variance to
Oh.
have the structure, by continuing to enforce the current ordinances, I think the gain to the public is move towards compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, sorry, maybe I was
And,
wording it
and
backwards.
does, in your opinion, does that outweigh whatever loss would happen to Mr. Moscone if we denied it? Does us doing our job outweigh him having to move it or deconstruct it, in your opinion?
Yes,
Okay.
because we move towards compliance.
When there was not necessarily any compelling reason to grant variance, for example, under hardship.
Right.
Any other feelings? I mean, we kinda have to have an idea.
You look confused, Bill.
This one is
Well,
a tough
keep
one.
on,
Yeah, it is.
no,
You talk ifs, ands, or words.
yeah, it still comes back to, and I wanna come back to the bare fundamentals of it, it's still a 16 by 40 structure, we're looking to grant a variance. So I'm taking away that it's a carport, whatever that is.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it as 16 by 40 structure. And I think that by us moving more toward compliance, we remove potential for the public in the future by having a 16 by 40 structure right there on that.
On the edge of the
Right.
road.
Yeah, so I agree with what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at it in a bit of a different way. I'm looking at what it is, but what it potentially could be in the future.
Yeah,
for
because,
the town.
because the right runs with the land and.
Correct,
and
And also about setting a
a
precedent.
non-conforming use.
That lacks
Precedence.
compliance.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Correct.
We have to
No.
look at every.
I-
Sorry if I look confused, but I was
No,
just thinking.
So let me
Completely
just ask Mark, from your perspective from the planning office,
Because they have it.
Exactly.
because this affects justice for Ms. Moscone, is that correct argument? I mean, I think that our zoning ordinance now does not allow any expansion, effectively, no expansion of non-conforming uses, but if we grant a variance for this, it becomes an authorized non-conforming use. But that non-conforming use then is defined by the dimensional variances that we've granted, then that structure, because it's a structure, can be any structure as long as it doesn't change dimensions, is that correct?
Or position.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's your argument, is that we're not just talking about a carport here, we're talking about
A structure.
in 40 years, somebody could build a barn.
16 by 40 structure.
Yeah.
Well, can we grant a
Or a house, for that matter.
variance in this case just for this situation? So, like when Henry, okay, let me finish. When Henry is ready to sell this property, it's understood that that structure in where he put his RV is a non-acceptable, was given the variance for this one-time purpose.
That's
That's
not
all
how
I'm
I-
asking.
Yeah, if Mr. Moscone was handicapped, then the answer is yes.
Right.
Henry,
Are you
that- if-
handicapped?
can we handicap?
You can't ask that.
No, I
No, we
can't ask
can't.
that, that's true.
Can't we put a requirement on the variance that says,
You're not allowed.
if and when he sells the property, the variance is revoked?
No.
No?
I tried that with my neighbor who wanted to put in the bed and breakfast and the conference center.
Yeah, yeah.
And the variance runs with the land. The only way to remove a variance is if she would have completely abandoned the use of that variance for 2 or 3 years, I forget what it is. They would have had to abandon the use of the variance,
Oh,
and
okay.
then it could revert back. But there's a so many steps you have to go through to prove that it was abandoned, because that's a legal term,
Okay.
and doing that is not very easy. So,
So anyway, to answer your questions, we
No.
don't have that option.
All right,
it would be nice if we did, but we don't.
So the question is, substantial justice is done. Do we feel that granting this does an unusually good job of preventing a loss to the individual?
Wait,
Say that again?
yeah,
Yes.
Well, the point is, a loss to the individual, which is not outweighed by a gain to the general public, is an injustice. That's the way it's stated. So, as we stated before, the potential gain to the public is a move towards order,
Yes.
yes. And as we said, the
Does
loss
that-
to the individual, in this
Oh.
case, is that we do not grant a variance for a structure within 8 feet of the property line, right? Which, as Bill has argued, because this kind of a variance runs with the land, we are saying in the future, no, the person can't turn the carport into a barn, can't turn the barn into a house, et cetera, et cetera. There's no other structure on this property, and it's a very realistic possibility that somebody might come here in the future and say, oh,
Yeah.
there's a structure there, that's why I'm gonna build my house,
So
you know?
it's kind of like the question I posed to Sharon earlier, would denying him out, if you denied, does the benefit of having him deconstruct or move or whatever outweigh his ability to have it?
so we cannot look at the deconstruction part.
Okay,
All
or
we look
whatever
at is
happens.
not granting the variance, so in essence, does not get to have a carport over the RV.
Okay.
Does that cause more damage than the gain to the public of moving toward compliance?
Right, and,
I got you now.
and the argument here has been, say, Mr. Dempster as well, we're looking at the gain to the public by not allowing a structure to exist 8 feet from that property line into the future on a lot where there is no house, and that's where that house would go.
Okay.
Versus, yeah, but he's doing this, now let's just, it's okay, I mean,
Nobody,
What's the harm?
nobody's complained, so nobody cares that it's
and
there.
the answer is, we're discussing the structure, we're not discussing the fact that it's, whether he puts this RV in the middle of the grass, or at the top of the hill, or the bottom of the hill is actually
Wherever.
irrelevant to
Yeah.
us,
I
and
think
he
it's
can
just
do
that
whatever he
wording
wants there.
that always gets me.
And he doesn't have to move his RV. We're discussing the issue. So in this case, I would argue that there's no substantial justice done to Mr. Moscone, because the public, we are protecting the public from the possibility of having a structure built on that property 8 feet from the property line.
Yeah, but we would all admit that the trailer with the carport is in keeping with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It could be
Well,
still
that-
in
but
keeping
that's
with the
not-
neighborhood 25 feet off the
That is,
property line.
that is the next question.
The-
Okay, that's the next question. So,
Yeah, there's that one camper down the road.
Yep.
So whether it's a trailer with a carport
It's not under a
or.
carport though.
Mhm.
Or just a trailer
right.
with a cover.
Well, let's go on to the other questions, and then we will have to debate all these. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it would, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the spirit of
I gotta call my
the spirit
wife.
of the ordinance, okay, is observed, and the variance will not be contrary to public interest. Okay, so the question is, these two things generally taken together, because effectively, they are, you can say the variance is not contrary to public interest, and the ordinance, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because, one, it doesn't alter the essential characteristic of the neighborhood, nor does it threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public, okay? So, on these items, it's, I don't know, I'll presume to speak for the board here, I don't think these two items would be encroached upon. Like I said, the general character of the neighborhood is not gonna be changed, it's relatively chaotic down there.
It's
I
very
mean,
rural.
Small lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lot going on.
but it's a seasonal area,
yeah.
truly.
Do we know that Mount Washington Road, or whatever it's called, is actually an accepted road for the town?
It's not an accepted road to the town, but it doesn't make any difference.
It's a private road.
Well, if it's a class 6 road, it does.
Is it
It's
a,
not a class
It's
6 road.
It could be a
private.
private road.
Private road, so it's private.
it's a
So
private road?
setbacks still apply.
They have to
Still-
do their own
yeah.
plowing and all that,
Yeah.
correct?
Setbacks still apply?
When you
Still
drive in,
apply.
there's
I'm
a
sorry,
drive-in,
you
there's
mean it's not a
sign.
class 5 road?
It's not a class 5 road, it's not a class 6
It's a
road
private.
either.
Oh, I see, it's not either.
It's not a town
It's not a
road.
town
Yeah,
road.
not down
Not
road.
classified at all by the town, is what you're saying.
Well, it would be
Other than-
either
Private way.
a road shown on a subdivision or a private way.
Yeah, as noted by the fact that no matter what system you use on maps to look it up on the internet, the roads are all different.
Where was that one we went to that put us up in the woods about 100 yards?
I don't know. Okay, so, but on these two,
Churchill.
there's no, does not encroach upon the public health or safety and does not affect the nature of nature of the neighborhood. Okay, so on these 2 points, we don't have an objection. So basically what it boils down to is we have to decide, is substantial justice done? Does the gain to the public outweigh, in the long run outweigh Mr. Mosconi's right to maintain a structure there, which will, variance which will run with the land? The fourth one, property values are not likely to be accepted, so it boils down to number 3 and number 5, hardship. So either we just simply take a vote on the discussion, or whether there's a little further discussion before we, someone care to,
I think we beat it to death.
I think we beat it to
Yeah.
death. Someone wanna formulate a motion?
Oh, you,
What if I could?
you can't, right?
No, you can't.
I motion that the request for variance to the setbacks,
To deny or accept.
be denied, I was gonna say.
Okay, the motion is to deny the variance request. Okay, then because,
Because it does not meet 2 of the 5 criteria, being
Well,
hardship and substantial justice.
okay, okay, I'm gonna say the value, just to get words on the page here,
Okay.
value to the homeowner does not,
Plus it won't be contrary to the public interest. Is that what you said?
well, no, well, yeah, we said that already, but
Right.
right now we're voting to deny because the question is number 3 and number 5. So let's get it on the table and then you can discuss whether you want both of those in there. So the value of the homeowner does not outweigh the value to the public in denying the variance for structure approximately 8 feet from the property line, which runs with the land, and there is, how would we say this, Sharon, no hardship,
No,
no unnecessary hardship.
no unnecessary hardship due to the unique characteristics of the property, due to lack of unique characteristics.
Based on characteristics of the property, because there is, I'll just say, we can work on it, nothing unique to the property that requires the
Roof structure
structure to be
placed,
Where?
closer than the setback requirements. Okay, so we can discuss this for a moment. What we're doing here is, there's a motion to deny the variance based on criteria 3, that the value to the public in denying a variance so that a structure cannot be put in that location in perpetuity outweighs the short-term gain to the homeowner. And because it does not require him to move his RV. Okay. There is also then the fifth one, that there's no argument for unnecessary hardship because there's no unique characteristic of the lot that requires the placing that structure inside the setback requirements. Okay, so that's the way we have those motions right now. So before we vote on it, let's just go ahead and beat it to death again. You can
Do we
express
need
your
a second
opinions.
for it?
Well, okay, we do need a second before. Does anybody, second? Okay, so Sharon's so moved. We have a second discussion. Anybody want to add discussion to that? George, you want to add anything?
I just normally would always go with you guys in this case, but I think we're at Madison Shores is a unique situation. And I don't think it is a picture of Madison or Edelweiss. And I think in this case, if somebody builds their house in the area that you think this structure is, it's the nature of where he lives that is causing me to not be in favor of removing that structure.
Well, then, let me put words in your mouth suggesting that what you're arguing is the unique characteristic of the property in this case, because of the smallness of the lot, in that context, is that makes it unjustifiable to require the setback, 25
For
feet.
this to be located anywhere else on the property.
Oh, I know it can be located.
No, but that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, you're arguing because it's,
Yeah.
because of where it is and
Oh, yeah.
the smallness of the
Yeah,
lot,
yeah,
that
no, I don't.
the
Or- I don't
25-foot
argue that.
setback is.
Yeah, if it wasn't where it is and the circumstances surrounding it and exactly how this is lined up. And, you know, I mean, he's got his trailer here. He's trying to protect it with a kind of a tent roof made out of metal.
Mhm.
I just find that hard that we can't, that we use these metal posts as the criteria. It's 56 feet, 40 feet, whatever.
Mhm.
And we've had situations that have been far less than that.
Mhm.
So I just can't see why we need to have this
Other
taken
than,
down.
other than his, I don't know we've had any other one that's only 8 feet from the property line.
Possibly not.
I mean, that's pretty close to the property line. Regardless of whether we're 40 or 56 feet from the center of the road,
But it-
that was not as big a criteria for me as being only 8 feet from the property line.
Yeah. Well,
And
just-
given the fact that there's already nebulousness with
Well,
this other
well,
structure.
I look at this whole area, there's a lot of that in this area.
But that
And
doesn't make it,
it doesn't
Yeah.
make it any clearer, I agree.
if this
It
were
just-
being done as it should have been
Yeah.
done beforehand, before putting it in place, you know, even with the RV sitting there, and this request to build a structure,
Right.
I would not have approved it, I would not approve it. The fact that it exists is somewhat irrelevant to me. Like we said, Mr. Moscone has lots of different options that he can pursue,
Yeah.
including taking it down and just putting a cover over his RV, but,
And if I was working with my head, yes,
right.
Henry's gotta take it down. And so I'm struggling with that fact in this case, that I just don't think whoever purchases this property will put something there just because it had that on there. I mean, I know, that's,
You don't think it brings in, you don't think it brings any benefit to anything besides that trailer, essentially?
Oh, I'd definitely put a garage there.
Oh, well, especially when I'm selling the land, I
Well,
tout that there's already a
Kinda
variance
hard to put
there.
an 8-foot garage in.
Okay.
Well, let me,
Park it
can I-
inside.
Yeah, let's, orderly comments here. Bill, did you want to comment?
I understand where you're coming from, George. How I'm looking at it is that if we approve this variance
Mhm.
and somebody goes to build a structure other than what's there now, does not give the abutters the opportunity to come in and have their say, because it's already been accepted.
It's already been done.
The future of it.
The future abutters.
what,
That's-
we're, okay, future abutters.
That's what I'm saying, future abutters. The current abutters, as it stands, what they have now, there has been no yes or no.
There's
been
no
comments.
butters that are saying a darn thing.
But,
That's part of my,
I agree with you
yeah.
there. or I look at it as in the future, you have potentially a 16 by 40 structure other than what is here now. You don't afford the future abutters the opportunity to come in and have their say and say something. They've got to accept it what it is.
But that's always the case. I'll go back on one case that we had out on the lake, that he had a treehouse, if you recall. And we voted in favor of that because the neighbors were fine and this, and it was only about 8 or 10 feet from the next property. And that's a similar situation, and we okayed that. And I think in this case, that was a that was a $35,000 structure that this guy put up. And I just, you know, if it has to be, I mean, you're right in terms of where we have to protect things, but Madison Shores is a pretty tough area for me to say, hey, it's all over the place, all over the map. Different than our town area and different than Edelweiss. Edelweiss has its own along with ours,
Then-
rules. Where does Madison Shores lie?
I don't know what you mean. Where's
In
the
other
line?
words, Madison Shores is part of Madison, but it's got its own, that's a whole different area up there.
Well,
It
it's a
still
rural
falls
residential
under our
district.
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
It does, I agree.
I mean, if there's an issue with that, then I would suspect that the residents of Madison Shores would band together and request to go to the planning board to create different ordinances.
A special
for
zoning district.
A special
Yeah.
zoning district for that area, but not just
I'll
disregard.
I'll go
our
along with
zoning.
you, but grudgingly, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Okay, and,
Make your own
you know,
decision,
Yeah.
it is 100% your
because
decision.
Yeah.
my vote will not change anything. But the fact is that,
Well,
you're right.
You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know
What you
anybody
You
else.
don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, did you want to say anything, Doug? You don't have to, but you're welcome to.
My feeling is that if I was standing on the road and looking at this structure with the RV inside it, it's gonna look mighty different when you take the RV out and now you just have the posts and the roof. It's gonna almost be invisible.
hmm.
So from my point of view, in my humble opinion, I think it's fine there, and is someone gonna, is a future owner going to take what's there and make it more substantial? I doubt it, but that, again, my opinion.
Well, that's what I said.
And
Yeah.
it's made of, it's steel poles with a
Metal roof.
it's not a wooden structure.
Right.
It's all steel.
So what are you gonna do with it?
Take it down and build a barn,
Okay.
right?
What, on the
On
cement
the
blocks?
16 by 40. No, you could, it doesn't matter, you can demo the entire thing, you still have 16 by 40 feet of space that you're allowed to now build back.
I believe 16 by 40 is roughly the size of a park model
It is.
modular home.
Yeah.
Yeah, manufactured home,
It
Yeah.
is-
some of,
Okay.
yeah. So you could just
Put one there.
drive that in there and set
these
it
are all-
down.
okay.
And in defense of that, if you're looking at having to run utilities from the road to there, or, you know, the cost of getting stuff to the house, to that structure, it's a lot cheaper to do it there than it is to do it up here.
But if you,
So I would.
if I use that argument and say, yes, in some future time, I could put a modular home there, okay? What are you gonna do to put a modular home there? You've got to have a septic system. That's gotta be,
Not true. There's one directly across the street from Mr. Moscone that does not have a septic system.
and what do they do about their sewage?
You can
Gray,
have a
gray water
composter
tank,
and a composting
an
system.
RV gray water tank.
But there's also nothing that says they can't, like my septic system is not sitting right next to my house, it's
But
50
you still
feet.
have to get it approved.
Yeah.
You just can't dig a hole and say,
Oh, no.
pipe the
but-
sewage into it.
No, that's true, but,
Once the structure is proposed there and the variance exists to put the structure there, I don't see any reason why anybody would disapprove the septic system. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, in my mind, is we start with these ordinances. we expect citizens, we've passed these, they've been voted on, the town has accepted these are the ordinances that govern our town and continue to govern our town. Yes, we have the authority to make variances, but we need to make those variances when we believe that the need of the homeowner far outweighs, in my book, I put the far in, that's my opinion, far outweighs the needs of the town and the ordinances. The ordinances are there for a reason. If we don't like the ordinances, then we need to change them. And I've argued that, I believe, since the time that I've been on the board, is that every homeowner has the right to petition the planning board to change some of those ordinances or recommend a change to the ordinances, because they don't fit, what's this, Madison Shores, is that the name of that?
Yes.
Yes.
They don't fit Madison Shores, or they don't fit Edelweiss, or they don't fit wherever else.
To be fair, you were the one who made the motion at town meeting to raise the building permit limit up to, what, 8,500?
Yeah,
Because it didn't fit with the
it
times.
no longer fit with
Times.
what the times were,
Yeah.
so.
Well, let's, before we actually vote on this, we need to remember that since this motion is formulated to deny, if this motion fails, then we probably would need to make a motion
To
to
approve.
grant the variance with the condition that we wanted to have, which would
Correct.
then specify, of course, I realize there's some risk that someone might change their vote, but the reality is that by having the formulation as it is, if the motion so passes, then it passes. If it doesn't pass, then we do need to consider to what extent we want to, require, the dimensions to be
If it
nailed down.
makes it easier, instead of having to vote to deny and then go back and create an entire new motion with new stipulations to approve, I'm not opposed to withdrawing my motion and we go to a motion for approval
Well,
and vote
okay.
on that.
The only,
Thought you
Is that
said-
cleaner?
I'm sorry, I thought you said we couldn't put any stipulations on it.
no, I didn't
That's
say.
what I
we-
thought
We
too.
can put
That's what I thought.
we can put dimensional.
You can put dimensional stipulations, his suggestion was, can we make a restriction of the variance to the owner? No, the variance runs with the land, has nothing to do with the owner, with the one exception that we're allowed to make a very specific exception for people who are registered as a handicap. So for example, you could allow something that you don't think you want permanently, but
We did a wheelchair access. one.
Wheelchair access, yeah,
Right.
right from the road up to the house or
Right.
something, yeah.
yes.
That kind of thing, right? Would be closer to the property line than.
But restrictions, we're allowed to put conditions on an approval, okay? But if we change it to accept, then we don't get the language in which explains why we denied it.
Well, we could put that language in for the people who vote against the approval, for the reason why they voted against the approval. That language could be used for their reason for denying, for saying nay as
Well,
opposed to yay.
I actually think it's simpler if we just
Okay,
vote with the
See what
motion
you've
the
got
way it
and then
is,
decide.
and if the motion does not carry, then we address the question of what kind of restrictions, conditions we want to put on. Okay. Okay,
The only restrictions we can put, if it fails, and we vote to approve with restrictions,
conditions.
the only conditions we can put on is size, is that the only one we can
and
deal with?
distance from the road and that kind of stuff.
That's
Well,
all.
we can put conditions on the variance in the framework in which the variance is requested. So what we can't do is tie a condition to an owner.
Well, then the variance is only requested for the roof. That's what it's on the
Yeah.
page.
Right,
Right,
right.
So we can't deal with dimensions and setback, it's only for the roof.
it's for where the roof is located, it doesn't meet the setback requirements.
Not what it
That's-
says.
No, that is exactly what it says in the letter to him from Bob Boyd, in the disapproval of the,
Well,
It says roof
the notice is to the public to say what it was requested, right? The official document that applies to us is what's written in
yeah,
the
it says to
application.
permit the metal roof over his trailer for protection. So if you're gonna permit a structure, it has to comply with setback requirements. I think that's intrinsic in the,
Well, then if you go onto the building permit denial written up by Bob Boyd, it says the roof structure.
Roof structure. not the structure, the roof structure.
Well, there is,
The roof
the
structure.
RV is not a structure, it's an RV. Nobody said that the RV was a structure.
No, I'm not saying it is.
Well, I'm not sure I understand your
The
distinguishing
framework
it.
is, the roof is not the framework. So the roof is not a structure, it's the entire thing is the structure. We're talking about only the roof in this request, right?
No, we're talking
No, the
about the
roof
roof
structure.
structure.
It does say the roof structure, Doug. That, yeah. but-
Because you
Well-
can't hold a roof up without a structure beneath it to put it there.
Okay,
It doesn't float in the air,
Skyhooks.
right?
okay.
I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of what it was there. You take the roof away, is
There you have
the
four
current-
holes.
The property underneath it gets exposed to the elements.
I think,
Well,
Now, I disagree that
I
it's a
think
structure,
it's
but
just
that's
a-
not, that's another question. Okay, let's move forward.
it's the nature of the
2
roof
hours
structure.
is not.
I have a hell of a hard time. And I understand how you're, I hate variances when it comes down to this.
I just, yeah.
Okay, so shall we vote?
Please.
Okay. Those in favor of denying the variance, raise their hands.
Do we need to do a,
We'll do a roll
Roll
call,
call.
raise, we'll just raise hands and then
okay.
Kate
Tell
can see.
Kate, yeah.
Yeah, so in favor of denial,
Bill, Sharon,
Bill, Sharon, and Drew.
those opposed to the denial? 2.
George and Doug.
Okay, all right, in that case, the motion as formulated to deny the variance is approved. Just to clarify, this does not mean that you have to move the RV. Okay? The variance denial is for the dimensional request for the roof structure. And you are free to solve that problem how you wish. But let me read the,
Well, within the confines of the ordinances of the town.
yeah. Excuse me. I've shuffled my papers too many times tonight. Okay. If one wishes to appeal, one must act within 30 days of the date of this notice, day 1 being tomorrow. The necessary first step before an appeal may be taken to a higher court is to apply to the Board of Adjustment for a rehearing. The motion for rehearing must set forth the grounds on which you will base your appeal. See RSA 677 for details. Board members are advised to refrain from discussion of the appeal with other board members and all parties to the appeal until all further appeal periods have expired. Thank you.
So what's the time limit here?
Beg your pardon?
What is the time limit?
to appeal?
No.
To
You tell
make
me I
any,
gotta take it
To
down.
comply,
we didn't say you had to take it down. We said you have to, you're not in compliance and we're not granting a variance. What you choose to do, and I would suggest that maybe you talk to Mr. Boyd about what your options are. I'm going to presume in all practical matters, it means you, yes, we'll have to take it down. I would suggest talking to him and he can give you, tell him what that looks like for you, how long
It's
it'll
up to
take.
him to make a decision when it
No,
has to
no.
come
Well,
out.
no, there are probably guidelines.
There are
but
guidelines.
We're not an enforcement board, so the question of how long you have before the town would consider another fining operation, for example, is a
You know,
matter.
he's already fined me, and I've already paid fines.
Well, once again, those questions are questions of enforcement, they go to Mr. Boyd.
And if he's unable to answer them, then it can go to the selectmen.
Who is the selectman? I mean,
The select board,
The select board.
and you can contact them through Linda during office hours.
I don't get it. Who's gonna tell me how, when this thing has to come down? Bob.
Bob Boyd.
Yeah, Bob Boyd.
It's up to him when it has to come down.
Well, he has guidelines and
He has
policies for the
guidelines,
town.
it's not a personal decision, but we are not, I mean, that's not our
You know,
area of responsibility is to determine that, that's
You
that's
just
an,
made the decision, now it's up to him to enforce it.
yes.
Correct.
not Not everything is fun in this thing.
No.
Okay, so we have two sets of minutes. The first set of minutes is from June 19th, and there is a limited group of people who are allowed to act on that. So let's see, who was acting chairman that night? George?
I was, and then turned it over to
To Jake.
Jake.
Okay, so then Jake, Doug, Bill, let's see, whoever was there on June 19th.
George,
Yeah, so Jake, you were acting chairman, so you want to supervise the approval of those minutes, please?
Did you see anything?
No, and I'm not going through with a fine tooth comb for grammatical issues, I'm just, when I look at these, it's for big picture stuff.
Well, I look for grammatical errors, and
I
I saw
can't pick up
nothing.
my
That's
own.
Sharon.
Leave that to me.
I can't pick up my
Yeah.
own grammatical stuff.
Yeah.
I always look at them just from if we go to court, do these accurately represent the proceedings that we had on that night? And do they specify in enough detail that whatever our lawyer would have to use them for can be used for them?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, this
Use
one
them
was,
for.
and this was a
Fairly
short
easy.
meeting, it was, but I saw 0,
yeah,
not even grammatical.
I mean, they were almost, I don't wanna say
Perfect.
identical, they were very, very similar in procedure,
Yeah,
is what I will say. So, no, I didn't see anything.
Okay, so then you want to entertain a motion to approve them as they are?
Move to approve as written?
yeah.
Say
George.
second.
It was
Second.
Doug, seconded by
Thanks.
George.
Okay, those of you who were there for that meeting, raise your hands if you approve.
Aye.
Did anybody not approve?
Okay.
So we look at May 15th, that's the month before. These are quite extensive. I did do a preliminary review with Kate, so I did find a few other things. So I'll go through the things that I found, and what I would suggest is if anybody finds anything else on the same page that I'm looking at, or in the process of getting to the next page, then speak up so we don't just go person by person, but roughly page by page, okay?
And Drew, can I interject?
Yes.
In that comment that you went through it prior to the meeting? I think that's a great idea, because
Oh, I
I think
do.
we spend a lot of time on just grammatical errors, and we should be spending more time at this
Content.
meeting on content. So,
Well, I think both have to be dealt with. so-
oh, I
and
think so too,
We can't make
but I
changes to
think
them
it
until
would
you
save a
get here.
lot of time in terms of,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, we did this because, as you know, one of these cases is going to court, and Chris is creating the certified record.
I'm agreeing with Surveyor, he's creating the answer.
I'm sorry, yeah,
The other way around.
Kate is creating the
Yeah.
record, but,
That's
But-
tall.
yes, but Chris is guiding the process in terms of what he needs, and so,
Right.
so we were trying to get this as fast as possible. So page one, look at page one just for a moment.
Mr.
Kate-
Chairman, before you start, can I ask
Yes.
a question?
Yeah,
The first couple of cases that day, I had been recused.
Yes.
So I cannot vote or have
No.
any input on those minutes.
We
Okay.
talked about this. So he can't vote on the whole thing, but he can vote on his
He can vote on
cases.
the other two at the end.
That was what I was gonna
But
ask.
he can't
Yes.
vote, yes, no, we talked
Okay,
about
that's what I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Right, yes,
Okay.
because we have different
I would have
boards.
stopped you.
Because
And
the
as
same
you're
thing
going
with
through
me. I said
minutes-
the first two.
I have everybody written down, who I need and who I, who's
Okay.
what.
And
Right.
as you're going through the minutes, you are free to notice a grammatical error or a spelling error and correct that.
Yeah.
Right.
But can't
But
change
content
any
and, yeah, content,
No.
Okay, so page one, the last sentence, where it says one period, Gentile asked Martin, strike the Y. His reason for not attending in person,
Yep, same way.
and then strike that phrase is not reasonably practiced. Just put the question mark there, so it says Gentile asked Martin his reason for not attending in person.
Martin State is in Washington DC.
Yeah, so-
On page one, before we go
Okay.
to page two, up at the top, it says Pledge of Allegiance, Schilling led the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, but then it also says that somewhere else, where did it say,
Oh, I had it in.
you have it
Yeah.
in two places.
Yeah.
Strike one of them, I
I'll
don't,
take the one out of the call to order, yeah.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, in the call to order.
Okay,
I
so,
remember I didn't have it in there, and I didn't have the Pledge of Allegiance in highlighted, so that's why it's in there twice.
Okay, if there's nothing else in page one, then at the top of page two, the end of paragraph, the first paragraph, which is numbered 2, the last line, continue their case if they want a 5-member board. Okay, not without, if they want. I had nothing else in page 2.
Paragraph number 4, Gentile asked Martin to identify any persons at, it wasn't this location, it was at his location.
Oh, okay. Strike the T,
Yeah.
okay?
And then 2, not the big paragraph, but the one sentence, Gentile asked Young to read aloud case 2315, as well as the posting nonfiction.
Oh.
Should be notification.
It didn't pick that up,
It is
though.
nonfiction, but it should be
I
notification.
spell checked it and it didn't pick that up.
No,
That's a
it wouldn't.
word.
No, it
Probably
wouldn't.
would
It's
not.
spelled correctly, it's just the wrong word.
What you need is AI for that, not spell check. Okay.
I've actually thought about it.
Well, I didn't watch the video.
I've already thought about doing
Okay,
it.
page 3, the last line I have, where it says documents that, and then I have struck, it is permitted rental use of the prior testimony, and it just documents that the rental use
That-
add
that
is
rental use?
permitted. Okay, so the last line, you strike out from, it is a permitted rental use of the prior testimony about, strike that whole thing,
Yep,
And
that's
then-
not rental use, yep, gotcha.
is permitted, okay, so.
Definitely.
Earlier up on the page.
Wait a
on-
minute, wait a
Oops,
minute.
sorry.
Virtue of these documents, that, the rental use,
Yes, that the rental use
And that
is
the
permitted,
elements.
and that the, it goes on to page 3. That's 4, it goes on to page 4, but Sharon had something else on page 3.
Yeah, the word in line number 4, the HOA charter foresees, or is that supposed to be oversees rentals without distinguishing?
Page 3.
Page 3, item number 4, up at the top, says 4 point, the
those were-
HOA charter foresees rentals?
Yeah, that was actually, yeah, because it was so old, actually, I put in the word foresees, the HOA charter does foresee rentals without distinguishing
Yeah,
between long and short
makes
term.
sense.
Yeah.
Are we talking about they foresee the occurrence of rentals without
Yes.
distinguishing?
Yeah,
Between longer term. Yeah, because there was something specific about the language. I think it actually said rental
It just
occupancy.
yeah, they
Yeah.
had several times and they mentioned rentals, but they
Yeah.
didn't.
So
yeah.
for clarity, can we just put in foresees the occurrence of rentals without
Well, that-
distinction?
Sure,
As long as you didn't change, and well,
nope,
hold
that's
on,
fine,
no, the
sure,
findings of
yep,
fact,
that's fine.
Nope,
well, that's gonna change the decision now. Because findings of fact have foresees in there, so that will now change the decision that I've already issued.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm.
can't
So
do
you
that.
can't do that.
I don't see why you need to change it.
I don't think you need to change.
I've already sent out the decision.
We're already going to court. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, can you
Not on
live with
this
it,
one.
just?
I'll live with it, I'll live with
Okay,
it.
I
I just think when we
Applied yet.
It is.
do this, we
well,
need to be
you're-
clearer.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
right. I know, we have a lot on our plates to
yeah,
get through.
okay, so page 4, does anybody anything on page 4? I do not.
Or do not.
Okay, on page 5, on the paragraph, in the paragraph that starts with John Cancelaric, okay, so in the second line, afterwards is case 2315 Cancelaric, just underneath it, I'm sorry, it's the next line down. It says zoning ordinance, which is under
B.
B, it should be Article 4.2B, not just B. Article 4.2B. Okay, and then 2 paragraphs further down, there's 2 that start with Gentiles, so the last paragraph I'm
The
speaking
big
of.
one.
The big one, right.
will, gentle,
On the last paragraph of page 5, it starts, it's a large paragraph, starts with my name. Okay, on the third line, for the board and what is not in question. Missing word there, and then in the next line down, then in the middle of that line, then this house was, it has a pre-existing, not was a pre-existing, has a new pre-existing. And then going down a few more lines, the line that starts permitted, halfway down the paragraph. There is no right to be grandfathered, not There is not the right, there is no right to be grandfathered, even if, and strike, and it is not whether.
Even,
So replace and it is not whether with even if. Okay, and then in the next line down, from 2015, comma, strike and.
So insert a comma and strike and.
Yeah. Okay, that's it, unless
I
anybody else.
have,
Go
you
ahead.
caught one of mine on, that same paragraph. It's the line that starts with the year 2010, comma, depending, instead of depending the version, it should say depending on the version of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, page 6. Second paragraph that begins with my name, second to last line. Not already have the use. To add the word already after not. And remove it from the previous line, so that it says, Gentile stated that a home which did not already have the use would normally not be, okay? And then do you have anything else at the top of the page?
Yeah, at the top of the page, the very first paragraph.
Yep.
Where the line that starts with 2022 ordinance, it says change that changed.
No.
It would just be the ordinance changed.
no.
The ordinance changed, that
It was
changed.
the March 22 ordinance changed, that changed to make short-term
right.
rentals.
That's right.
So that's when the change happened.
Yeah.
Or word it any way you want.
That's correct.
It's,
Put a
Yeah,
comma
it's,
there.
it's
Put a comma
awkward
there.
wording.
it's an awkward wording, yeah.
Yeah, we could maybe make that simpler.
Will that
22
affect- Will that
ordinance,
affect the vote?
no. This is, we're just clarifying, we're not changing the meaning, we're just clarifying the wording. So
Okay.
what I was gonna suggest was that 2022 ordinance change.
Oh, you can just take out the first change.
All right, just take out the first change.
Yeah, just
The
ordinance
2022
that changed
ordinance
to
that
make it
changed.
Changed.
Yeah,
Yep.
that reads better.
Yeah, right, just
Thank
take
you.
out the first change.
That
Yeah,
was a
there
lot
we
of
go.
change, yeah.
Okay, so then in the,
I have another one in the
oh,
next
go ahead,
paragraph.
go ahead. Go
The
ahead.
next paragraph, the second line, that starts with 1976, and that the laws change all the time, and that in the 1987, I don't think we need the word the, that in 1987, the zoning ordinance in its original form took effect.
Okay. Okay, so under the second paragraph, under where it says roll call vote, starts with Gentile asked if the board could link transients to motel. Okay, so,
Where are we? On page 6?
page 6, yeah,
Yep.
so we're just under halfway down the page, second paragraph, it says Gentile asked if the board, okay?
2 under the roll call.
Are you there, Kate? Okay, so the third line there, where it says Martin agreed Gentile stated definition of motel goes back to 2015, not
Right.
18,
Yes, I had that.
okay? And then in the next line, predates the purchase of the house so that, not and, okay? Purchase of the house so that the use was already prohibited 2015. Okay, anything else on this page?
No.
Okay, I don't have anything on page 7.
I do.
Go ahead.
The second paragraph that starts with Gentile polled the board. On the second line, the board needs to add, we need to insert the word add, their understanding of the definition. That's all I had.
Okay, I don't have anything on page 8.
Nope.
I don't have anything on page 9.
Nope. Don't have anything on
I
10.
don't have anything on page 10.
I don't have anything until 14.
Okay, I don't have anything on 11, 12, 13. Okay, so I guess we're up to 14. What do you have, Karen?
1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph down, Gentile asked the word if, strike the word if, it just should say Gentile asked the board if they felt they could take the same motion.
Okay, I don't have anything on page 15.
16, I just have one.
Okay,
Halfway through the paragraph that starts with Gentile,
no,
sorry.
it's Gentile.
It is Gentile. Stated the board received a motion for rehearing. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. The sentence starts with, or the line starts with known at the time presented.
Yep.
Or he could take, or make a case that the board, strike the word a. The board made a powerful procedural error, not the board a made. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, I don't have anything on 17.
I have on paragraph E, subparagraph E,
Okay,
Attorney Johnson alleges that the board, there's
Oh.
two that the boards, just, yeah, strike the second that the board.
mm-hmm,
I do that a lot. Like get
Oh,
up,
yeah.
Go to the counter and come back and,
Oh, so that's that one.
what?
Oh, I thought you were talking about me hitting my elbow.
Oh, no, I know, I do have to go to the counter and come back and then where I
I'm good
am.
until page 20.
okay, so I don't have anything on page 18. I don't have anything on page 19. And Sharon has something on page 20.
And the very first paragraph, the next to last line where it says Gentile excuse Marting,
Oh.
strike the G. Marting. And then in the waiver request paragraph, about halfway through it, it's the line that begins with, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 down. It starts with give the board something official to go on.
Yep.
And if the board is going to decide on A, strike the second on A.
I think we can tell when someone comes to the counter.
Oh, yeah, you can, in all my minutes, cause I'm up and down, that's all.
It's true, I saw that, what, the certified record she made, it's 12 inches thick, it's incredible.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
no,
it's
bigger
thicker than that now. It's
It's
like-
just one side is this tall, then there's the other side. That's just the zoning ordinances.
Yeah.
That's not even, that's not a certified record.
I saw it, I was like, she's like, don't touch it, I was like, sorry.
And the actual certified record is 4 pages long, but I had to type it because my files are done newest date, the oldest on the bottom. No, Chris wanted it to be other way around, so I had to recreate my whole entire file the opposite way.
Oh, my.
So, that took me 3 days.
You should charge him.
Page 21, I don't have anything, do you? Okay, anybody have anything on page 22?
23, I have 2.
Okay,
Paragraph B, it says owing to whose, it should be those. Special conditions,
Okay, there we go, got it.
got it?
Yep, got it.
Okay, and then in where the paragraph number 2, the bold section of it, it says there is not change to drainage, should be there is no change to drainage.
okay. I don't have anything on page 24.
I do, just one.
Yeah, good. I was running out of steam by this time.
In the-
Type them.
I know, right? In the paragraph that starts with bold public meeting notice, the one underneath it, where it starts, Young stated that in a butter, Lawrence Fitzpatrick was sent and, should be an. Strike the D.
Mhm.
Top of the next page, the third line down that starts the residence to the bottom of the property, which is about a 25-foot elevation change. Instead of and approximately 150 feet, it should say in approximately 150 feet. There's a 25-foot elevation change over the 150 feet.
Okay.
That's it on the,
I think over would be,
Yeah,
or
100%.
over, yeah.
Yeah, over.
there's a 25-foot elevation change over approximately 150.
Yeah, that's better. Mhm. Anything else?
Nope, I think that's it for me.
26,
I'm done.
27.
Bravo.
Good job.
Oh,
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Me.
Second.
All in
Karen's
favor?
gonna give you a second.
Now, let's see, hold on a second. Actually, I think we need to do this in 2 parts.
Okay.
Because the first part,
Yeah,
Right, so we've got Jake hasn't been elevated and he needs to.
So
vote
I
on
can
those
do,
minutes.
Yeah, he has to be
let
elevated
me
to vote on
find
the
out
minutes.
where I got
So you
kicked
can't-
off the board.
I put the time
2403.
at
Well,
8:50.
well, wait a minute, his voting on the minutes is based on the fact that he was elevated in the meeting of the minutes.
Yeah, but you have to elevate him here now so he
You're
can.
elevated.
Okay,
So
Jake
he
is
can vote.
elevated, so he can vote on the minutes, yes.
But can,
Oh, but I voted on the last lot of minutes and I wasn't elevated.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, let's just, well,
You just didn't realize
In
it.
June,
Yeah, you weren't.
you're talking.
Oh.
no,
Yeah,
no,
you
well,
were.
that was my point, is that for the meeting, the people
They
were
could be
elevated.
Oh, I
Yeah,
needed
yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah.
vote on
And
these.
that means that-
You and Jake
so
and Jennifer.
only the,
Jennifer needs to be elevated too to vote on these minutes that we.
That's what I just
Okay,
thought, I just
yes.
voted on them.
these first three cases,
Yes, okay, let's just do that. Yes, but Jennifer's saying she voted on the 19th of
Yeah, the May minutes.
June,
She
May
did.
These are the
minute.
May minutes.
These, no,
These are
we did
okay.
the June minutes first.
June are okay.
yeah, she was,
She was elevated during the June meeting,
Yeah.
but she wasn't tonight.
And I voted.
Right.
But let's just go ahead and correct that. I'm elevating her for that
You're
purpose to
elevating
vote.
both of them, right?
Yes,
Jake
she's elevated to vote on the May 15th minutes and
And
the
the
June
June.
19th minutes. Okay. Okay, so those of you who are in this first section, which includes us, right? We have, okay, I don't know who,
I will,
do we have legal motion and second?
What are we doing?
not yet.
The first part of the May 15th minutes.
So do we have a page?
And George.
Does it really
Yes,
matter?
I know,
Page
no,
20.
George,
I wasn't here,
Unless there's a,
right,
It
George
does
wasn't here,
because
he
these are
can't
going-
second
These
it.
are going to the judge.
and I,
That's why
and he's
we're
gonna
being
count.
No,
particular.
the
Yes.
May, I have out who has to do the May minutes.
Right.
Drew, Sharon, Jennifer, and Jake. That who that has to, those are the people that
Yes.
have to vote.
Right, but we can only vote on the first half of the minutes.
Yes,
because-
she's aware of that. She's
Right.
taking.
But I wanna know what page.
19 is.
Thank you.
We can, Jennifer and I can vote on the minutes up until the end of page 19.
Right.
That is where we were both de-elevated. Is that the word?
Okay, and
No, she
The
I'll
wasn't.
do for today.
Jennifer wasn't. She stayed
I
on. It's
stayed
the only
on.
She
one
stayed
on the
on.
board that night. So Jennifer stayed
yes, and
on.
Alright, so
you left, and Jennifer stayed
So
on.
I can go to page 19.
Who went away, Jake?
Huh?
You're the only one.
Moving you.
Okay, so
I approve.
up until the
I
very
wasn't here for
top
the meeting,
of
so-
page 20. Okay, so
So-
Jennifer, or Sharon moved,
I'll second.
you second, okay,
Wait a minute.
all, in-
Wait, you guys confused me. Sharon made the motion for the May 15 minutes. to approve
Correct.
them. George seconded
He
them.
can't, he
can't.
wasn't
I
there.
So that's what's going on.
That's why
I was-
Jake is
all right, so
seconding.
Jake is
you
seconding.
motioned to me
I
to
did,
second.
I did, like,
You drew me
Sharon
in.
moved to approve the minutes of May 15 up until the top of page 20. And I seconded that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I-
Okay, so,
I can't do it.
You-
no, you can't, but the rest of us, did any of you who were there vote against approving those minutes? No, so, you got it. Okay, so now we start on page 20 through the end. So Jake is out, Jennifer's there,
Still in.
but Bill is in now,
Yep,
okay?
He switched from.
sounds like the Red Sox game.
So,
God, I know, huh?
somebody wish to,
make a motion to approve the minutes starting on page 20 till the end,
as amended,
as amended.
I will second.
Jennifer seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those of us who were there approved.
All 4-0.
We got there. Took us a minute.
It
So
gets
those,
complicated.
so for the record, that should be 2 boards, 4 members each, is that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think so.
okay. Do we have any other business we must conduct tonight? I don't think so. Oh, God.
Motion, no, I can't do that.
I won't be here next month.
You won't be here next
You're
month.
not here next month?
I won't be here next
I'm
month.
not on the board tonight.
I'm going to see Pink and.
Move to
What's the
adjourn.
date, what's the date for the next
Okay,
meeting?
Doug has moved to adjourn.
Hold on.
It's, yeah.
Doug,
it's-
can you show me what,
It's August
21st?
21st.
I'm definitely going to see
Must
Pink.
have something.
Okay. Okay,
Do we have any
Doug
cases?
has moved to adjourn.
I second.
Sharon second, all in favor?
Yay.
Aye.
If I'm allowed.
No,
No,
you
that's
pronounce it
talking.
I.
Aye.
She said yay.